Are you search engine optimized?
SEO up in your face.
It's like a bad commercial.
Algorithm.
This
Bad
Sunday.
sponsor read right now.
This podcast
Salesforce?
sponsored by the concept of algorithms.
We got our first sponsor, DeepSeek.
Oh no. It's already been security infiltrated. Great.
Yeah, because it's open source. What'd you expect?
You're open source.
Fair enough. You got me. Working at OpenAI these days.
You're working at OpenAI. Ah, double.
Got him again.
Burn.
All right,
That's
you
Jason
want
Bourne.
Lots of
You
video
got Jason
games.
Bourne.
Oh my God. Tell people what we're talking about, Pat.
Oh, we're going to talk about the state
Hey.
of video games.
Where's the music?
I'm going. God, I did the music again, or I did the music. Now you need it one more time because you love
Damn
it
right
so
we
much.
do.
It's your favorite.
Here's the weird thing. I didn't hear the music. I heard it through someone else's speakers. That last time you played it, like, and Kurosh got down, but I didn't hear it. And I don't know if it's a thing on my side. Whereas, like, normally when you do your like AM radio break in,
You
like,
don't hear
All
it.
right. Can you hear it now? Can you hear the music? Can you hear the music? Because we're here talking about video games. I don't know what to tell you then. I'm doing the thing.
Yeah,
Totally
We're talking
fair.
about video games, all right? We're talking about the state of video games in 2025. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they sassy? Are they sexy? Let's find out together. Now you get no more rock. Now we talk.
Ah, you couldn't even fade it out, you son of a bitch.
I don't know how to do it.
What kind of DJ are you?
A bad one.
That will
Fair enough.
address some of the
A
issues.
bad middle school dance. What?
I said I apologize. I had to fix my microphone. Hopefully, this is better audio for y'all.
Yes.
Maybe that's where your speaker was playing through, was your microphone as well. Why you couldn't hear it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's fine. We're all here.
All right.
How are
Like
you?
an insult.
We're good. We're going to welcome our guest to let him talk for a minute. Kurosh, tell us about yourself.
Hey
You're
everyone.
back.
Well, I'm back and better than ever.
And if you start talking about Hulk and Wolverine again, you're going to be gone just as quickly.
Oh no.
No, I'm going to be talking about that True Detective Green Lantern story, maybe.
There we go.
No, but my name is Kurosh. I am a creator. I do a lot of stuff in the game space. I have my YouTube channel and my show, the KJP Show, where I talk about a lot of indie games and game developers, celebrating and elevating them. And depending on when this comes out, I'll either have already brought it out or I'm be soon. But I'm working on a new podcast myself called Save Point Stories that I'm happy to share here. And that's a podcast about the relationships we share with games and that personal experiences that we all have, and just how has a lasting impression on our lives. So, yeah, excited to talk all things games with you guys today.
So that would be a good place, like a good podcast to discuss Kareem's ineptitude on Madden for like 3 years in a row. I feel like
What do
that's
you mean
where-
ineptitude?
That's the
It
place.
was good. It's just no one could beat the, what was it, 99 Oakland Raiders or something? That was garbage.
Couldn't beat anybody. Get
Get out of here.
You threw yourself away. Threw
That
yourself
was
away.
dope.
Sorry, I had to take my shot.
Shots were fired. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, we were just discussing, I think it's last week off mic about, or 2 weeks ago, about the Xbox Direct showcase, which led us into a whole conversation about just a bunch of stuff. And we're like, you know what, we're rambling on, but how about we get a guy who's knows a little bit more than we do to kind of straighten out our arguments, help us out a little bit.
And we
so-
couldn't find him, so we brought you in.
There we go.
Rude.
Man,
There's no shame in
thing's
being
full of
second place.
shots.
No shame. in
I hadn't
second
said anything
place.
in a while, so I just figured it was my time to jump in with something offensive and upsetting to someone. So it was my
It's
time.
okay. We're core brothers, so it's fine.
There you go. Exactly.
Is that like Eskimo Brothers? How does that work?
No, it's like
No.
comic book core. Our old lineage dates back eons, decades, centuries.
Since
Before
before the recorded time.
the recorded time.
So
That
that's
sounds
like
an Optimus and Megatron kind of thing. Is that what we got going on
yeah,
here?
yeah.
so that means
No,
like
I mean,
that's before iPhones. Is that what you mean?
I was gonna say like
Was
smoke screen and blue streak, but like that's fine. I mean, I'm just a little, that's
Wait, who the
like,
hell
I
is this?
don't see him as like the mortal enemy. It's more just like, we're different. We're the same model, just different colors, and just it's a little different. I mean, if you know those who know smoke screen and blue streak get my bit.
But if they don't explain it,
They don't. They don't explain it. Is there a comma in there? They don't explain it.
I said if they don't explain it.
Oh, if they don't, comma, explain it, or
Yes.
period, explain it. No, I'm good.
I hate you so much.
It's the best grammar podcast we've done in a while.
Yeah,
Video
it's like,
games.
no, money down. Or if you're like, no more politics. Like, no, more politics. It's just, you have to get the comma and the periods and exclamation points in the right position.
Fair enough. What we was talking about, not grammar, but gaming. Go back to the topics we're going to try and cover, or at least get through, depending on how many tangents we run into, is the Xbox Direct 25 showcase, which was, again, 2 weeks ago. Just because
Actually,
it was...
speaking of grammar and gaming, there's always Mavis Beacon, which we should always kind of go back to and discuss the history of gaming and grammar together in... I'm sorry, no, just continue on. Microsoft.
Is there any way to mute his mic or like just kick him out of the studio, Pat?
Yes, we can do
Oh,
that.
good. He did it himself.
That doesn't
Because-
mute him. He just got his video away. People
He's
have
hiding.
images.
He's
It
hiding.
has the same effect. It gives the effect of me stepping away and being blocked
Yeah.
off.
The
Now he's back.
illusion.
Now we need the
Turns out what
reality.
whores do
Now
for
we
And
need
I'm
the reality.
Ken.
Actually getting rid of him, Pat.
All right.
No more illusions.
Gotcha.
No more David Blaine's in this bitch. Yeah, talking about the showcase, we'll kind of go through some of the highlights of the games because Doom. I don't know if you guys saw the trailers. If not, we'll bring some up as well for Doom: The Dark
Yeah.
Ages. Looks effing dope. We were talking about the Nintendo Switch because we finally got it, and I got it. Was it like 3 weeks after I got the old Switch? So I felt immediately off sleep. But hey, I'm enjoying the Switch. I was.
Oh,
really
you're talking
late
about the OLED model?
I got the OLED model, but then
Okay.
3 weeks after that, the Switch 2 came.
Yeah.
out.
It
So
was
I'm
the
like,
best because
great.
he's like, guys, like I'm there, like I finally stepped into it. I got the Switch. I'm ready to game with you guys. Not, and we were like kind of like, well, one, the Switch isn't really ideal for co-op gaming, but that's a different discussion. And we're like, well, why didn't you wait for the Switch 2? And he's like, they keep talking about the Switch 2. That's never gonna come out. That's
like the Larry David music
Nintendo's
came up.
like,
Larry David's music came. So I was like, great. Then we talk about some of the most anticipated games of 2025. Kind of going over a few of those. I got a list. You let me know which ones you're looking forward to, and then we're gonna kind of get into probably the heavier, darker part of the conversation, which is the video game developing world in general. Just we've had about 3 years of major layoffs. They've been happening steadily over the last 7 to 8 years, but it seems like the last 3 have just been on steroids. And so I don't know if you've talked to anybody in the industry, if you have any anecdotes, but I've at least pulled a couple stories of what's been happening, the numbers that we're seeing, because it isn't like, hey, we've laid off 50 people. It's like, no, we've laid off a couple of thousand and we shut down the studio. So
yeah,
that shit's going up. So I don't know if you guys want to, we don't have to go in order. I just wanted to let people know that's what we're trying to talk about. What is the first thing you guys want to talk about? You want to jump into?
Let's get into
I
the
don't know.
Xbox showcase.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's not be depressed to start.
All right, cool. I didn't know if you wanted to like do the medicine
Just
thing where you like you
kill all the
medicine
momentum
first,
of
and
the
you get,
podcast up front, and you
and
gotta
you get your,
take
like,
that
sweets
show out of the
afterwards.
ground.
Okay.
Hey, I like my.
I didn't know.
dessert
I didn't want
first.
to end on a downer. Maybe. Okay. Whatever. So we got Doom: The Dark Ages, which is supposed to be launching May 15th. I don't know. Do any of you? Does everyone in this panel have an idea what it is, or should I go through kind of with the breakdown of what we saw from the trailer?
I mean, it's Doom, but like with a medieval twist, from what I
Yeah.
understand. It's like because 2016 Doom was like them revamping in a lot of ways and kind of setting a clean slate. And then Eternal came out a few years after that, following that. But then
Mhm.
this one, and they go into great length at this showcase, talking about how it's that same world, but they're going back. This is predating.
Dope. Yeah.
And this was the first time I realized it was going to go in timeline wise behind it. Granted, I don't know how much in terms of the plot there is, but they did mention that in terms of like, oh yeah, it's going to go back, and that's where the Dark Age, the medieval kind of vibe of it comes in. So yeah, Doom.
Yeah,
Dark Age.
I didn't get into Doom as much when it was a computer and stuff like that, and just as the hack it was. But this one looks like I'm really thinking about giving this one a chance. Maybe it's more my pace based on what I've seen. Plus, you got dragons in it, so I'm like, anytime you put a dragon in the game, I'm going to be there.
And mech suits. There's the
Yes,
whole
that's
like
right.
that element of it, letting me live out that power fantasy in all of its different power fantasies. I think. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, Pat.
Well, I was just going to ask, the description that you created sounds like they took Doom, the Doom shell, and said, let's say, what's this, Titanfall? Jam some of that in there. This is Skyrim. Let's jam that in there. There. Here's your game.
A little bit. I would say like Eternal was them going a little bit more Titanfall in terms of how it plays, because Eternal was the one that was way more platformy and kinetic in that way. This one, and they did a big thing in the showcase, kind of talking to how, because of the subject matter being more medieval and dark age, and kind of they want to have it feel more powerful, they weigh things and slow things down a bit. So from a play style,
Age.
Yeah, maybe even in that vein too. Yeah, in the tonality and stuff, but in very much in that explanation of like the power fantasy, I think they're just reorienting it a little bit. And what you mentioned in Titanfall, I know that there's the mech side of it, and that's probably more of what you were alluding to. But yeah, no, I just love the whole thing.
Sorry, he just wants to Titanfall its flowers.
No, you're good. It's just to me like I just watched the trailer as you guys were talking, and it's just like it's I mean it's Doom, but like it's to a certain degree a medieval setting, but also in a like I don't think steampunk is the right term, because it looks like there's like the shotgun that has it's much more mechanical in nature, but there's also like a shield that spins with like a buzzsaw blade kind of thing. It's like, so I'd be curious to see like what the term would be, like hellcore. I don't know. You'd call this as opposed to like or hellpunk. It has a very like deep metal, visceral feel to it, but it is just kind of still Doom to that degree. Where I'm like, okay, that's fine, and it's still to me like it's one of the iconic first FPSs that was just like, oh, you're just walking through this place, you're gonna go blow stuff up, pull this lever, level ends, and which is fine. That's exactly what you kind of look for with Doom, and that's all you expect is just a polished up Wolfenstein, and then you just kind of keep going. But now Wolfenstein has become its own thing too, so it's like I'm still that old where I'm like, oh yeah, that's from id Software. It's like I have an outdated mindset, so I still pull from that same kind of like it's still from that same bucket, but they've both gone on their own diverging paths at this point. It looks fine. It looks interesting. I haven't been into Doom since maybe Doom 2 on like the Sega 3D. It wasn't 3DO Sega. It wasn't Sega CD, but it was right at the same time. What was like the 16-bit
Sega, the Genesis
Sega one? It was the Genesis, but you also had a clip on top of it.
Yeah, the 32-bit attachment.
I would highly recommend, if you guys want to test the waters with what this Doom and maybe the prior two, they're very similar in their tonality of how it feels and looks and the way it amps you up. The Doom 2016 game is pretty cheap nowadays and an amazing experience. One of my friends just played it on his Steam Deck, and he's like, why didn't I play this sooner? And so it doesn't feel dated in a lot of ways. It's very much kind of like that old school feel of, like, Ken, what you were saying. You enter a level, the doors lock, but in this game, they kind of lean hard into that and just crank the rock music up when those happen. You just feel amped. You do like little fatality moments, kind of like Kratos, and you're having a blast. It's a power fantasy. Like that's what they really lean into.
Does it connect with the 2005 Doom with Carl Urban and The Rock? You mentioned rock music, so I wasn't sure if that was the care. No.
I
don't think I'm on board. That's not. Yeah. I want Carl Urban.
I want The Rock let you go as a manager. Just let it go.
That's what. No,
any more projects.
We're having a Space Jam moment. Let's do this. We're talking about Dwayne Johnson, Rocky Maivia. Let's get this going.
The final boss, as the wrestlers call him.
He's the people's champ. He made his own belt to prove it.
Yeah.
After Black Adam, he had to question your guys' relationship. I see why now. I see why.
Hey, he's the one that wanted to redefine the power hierarchy in the DC universe. I tried to talk him out of it. I tried to be like, hey,
he said that was your line. He said it was. You said it was going to kill.
No,
he also presented.
He says lots of things. He said, "I'm not going back to the Fast and Furious franchise." And then, what happens? What's up, buddy? Let's go ahead and fight some bad dudes.
Are those projects drying up? Probably.
And I remember in 2001, he was there when Xbox was first revealed.
He was.
So this all loops back together. Xbox Showcase.
Full circle. That's how we do things here. Welcome back to Tangential Giants.
You guys remember when he killed Osama bin Laden?
No, when did he do that?
No, he's the one that broke the news.
No, that was John Cena.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, was it Cena? No, I thought it
Yes,
was The Rock.
no, it was Cena. He came out. He stood
No.
on the
My
table,
bad, I messed up.
and he broke the news. John Cena. Back.
No.
When,
No, but The Rock, before the president announced it, The Rock tweeted he tweeted essentially like a teaser about like, oh, I just heard this, land of the free, home of the brave, but it wasn't like a direct thing, but like he heard about it because someone else, and he tweeted
Because
about
of
it
his friend Mark
before
Wahlberg, who was killing
Obama's.
terrorists on airplanes
What?
constantly for like
No.
for the next 10 years. That's all he did.
So
get on
this is
airplanes
why
and
The
kill
Rock
terrorists.
and John Cena feuded in WrestleMania, because they were fighting over who got to reveal
once in
his
a
name.
lifetime. Not really.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The
except
Rock
the
versus
second time.
Peacemaker, or sorry,
Yeah.
the
Peace-
God,
Yeah,
Black Adam
Peacemaker.
versus Peacemaker. I'd watch
There
that.
you go.
But one of the things I wanted to say too about the showcase, I know there's other games with it too, but the way they did this showcase was a little different than some of these other directs and formulas. And I thought with what they were doing in the few games they were talking about, it was perfect. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see the full showcase or just looked at the announcements, but like they kind of did a deep dive, but it was in a way where it's like feeling like, oh, here, like it's a behind the scenes DVD feature almost, as they're describing elements of the game, the rationale behind it and everything. I was like, you're giving me a reason to care and to feel like, oh, design choices were made intentionally and not because of numbers or metrics or something. And then on top of that, following through and just saying, oh, by the way, in 2-3 months it's coming out.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this is like that pacing, that cadence, that everything was like so good.
How did they keep it? I mean, I think people knew it was in development, but how did they keep it under wraps that it was coming out so soon? Because this is the first time they announced the release date, right?
Yeah, I think this was the date it was announced, but they last year, I believe, teased at one of their summer showcases or something.
Okay.
It was coming out in the near future, and usually the cadence, unless it's something crazy, like for instance, The Witcher 4, like when that got announced at the Game Awards, there's no date announced, and people would just automatically just assume, okay, that's years out. With Doom, with most games, the typical cadence is, oh, we're going to announce it within 6 months to a year of whenever it's going to launch. So we knew kind of it was going to be sometime in this year, just them giving the hard date, and then it also being in, what is it, April, I think is the release date, sometime around
May
then.
15th.
Like, yeah. And that being so soon, I was like, okay, they're confident. They've done testing. They're at the point of like, we're in the tail end of this. And I thought that confidence was really like good, and they have a good track record. So I was
Nice.
very impressed.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Definitely looking forward to that. The next one I was looking forward to is the South of Midnight. I mean, this is the DEI game, so just letting everybody know this game may not make it to YouTube.
I'm out.
Yeah, I figured you were, Pat.
This one's really crazy. I love the ambitious like creative designs that they're taking.
Yeah, the whole
I'm a little
idea
bit-
of like stop motion kind of thing was kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm a little perturbed by the character's name. It's very Star Warsy. Her name is Claire Obscure. I'm like,
No, that's a different game.
That's the
Claire
the
Obscure
next one.
Expedition 33. That's a game we need to talk about as well. But
Yeah.
South of
Okay.
Midnight is
gotcha.
is-
The way the list was stacked,
Yeah, no,
it made it look
yeah.
like that was. I apologize. That's on me.
Oh, no worries.
Okay, then never mind. That we'll I'll pan that name.
We'll get
later
into
on.
that name. Yeah, I think we all have ideas on that. But Hazel is the name of the main character in this one.
So Star Warsy. Hazel, like the eye color. Come on.
But she's got a cool power. I guess they say she's a weaver of some sort like that. But the animation looks great. I like the concept because it's a third person kind of open worldish kind of thing going on with hints of voodoo and magic, which I think are pretty cool. And then they have this cool narrator character, it seems like, this guy's going to be helping her throughout the story. And the fact that it's like Southern Gothic was also kind of cool, just because a lot of those stories tend to have like, I don't know, interesting lead-ins. If you're watching any kind of a movie about the area and its religious undertones and things like that. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. When I first saw it, was it last year when they first teased it? I was like, oh, this is like the Princess and the Frog, except without the frog. That was my first thought. But then as it goes on, I was like, this is obviously more in depth. But again, just for basically the gameplay itself, and again, if any of you take a chance to check out the trailer later, it looks really cool.
I think the biggest thing that I'm proceeding, I'm very optimistic with this game, but I'm proceeding with a little bit of caution just because a game can look great, but feeling great in the controls is kind of like, there's some games that just miss the mark on how
very much so
how it feels, and that connection between like you're doing an action and seeing what that plays out like, and then the gameplay loop itself, because most of what it showed was highlighting the different wild large characters that you interact with, almost like okay, go from point A to point B, and now there's a boss of sorts, now there's another boss of sorts, and I'm more wondering what happens in the in between, like what are we engaging with, what are we doing, what are we not doing, kind of thing. And
I've seen some trailers, some other clips of it. It looks like there's gonna be a lot of storytelling, so you're probably gonna be watching a lot, which isn't always my favorite thing, but because of the way they're doing the cut stop animation, I may give it a little bit of a pass for that. But for in between in between the cutscenes themselves, which is the fight action, looks like you're linking a lot of stuff too. There's like grabbing and tossing of things and connecting certain strings of movement together. And I don't know if that's just aspects of the weave, so to speak, but that looks to your point. I wonder if that's gonna be fluid enough, or if it's going to be timed. Like, all right, you press a button and it does a whole animation, and you sit there and wait for it. Then you press another button and it links that animation. Versus like, I have to move the controllers in certain ways to do certain different movements that connect or whatever.
You need the moment to really blend together the larger, bigger set pieces, and it seems like they have all the elements of it. It's just them being, from my experience, it's a new IP. It's a team that has a little bit of a track record, but I don't know too much of what they've prior worked on. Compulsion Games is the studio.
Yeah.
And they did We Happy Few before.
Yes.
This, which have you guys played that game before?
I played it once because I think it was on free on Xbox when it first landed, and it was weird and kind of creepy. Wasn't my style, but maybe I need to go back and revisit it.
It's funny you say weird and creepy. Sorry, go ahead again.
I would say it might be the same thing here. It might be the just the trailer that I'm seeing and the visuals. Aside from the stop motion kind of certain aspects of things, like to Kareem's point about the stories, I'm getting a little bit of like Alan Wake vibes from some of the storytelling interactions I'm feeling. But again, this is just like, it's not a one-to-one comparison. I'm just trying to like see little notes that I see comparable. But I'm intrigued. But as we've talked before, like most games nowadays, unless it comes to Game Pass where I can play it for free, like it's just like I only buy a very select few amount of games, and then there's the ones like, oh yeah, that's for free, me and my friends can play, okay, that's cool, like I'll jump on that. But it's not something I would necessarily buy and have pre-ordered, which we can discuss about pre-ordering in another.
These are racist.
Yeah, it's too much DEI. It's just too woke. As some people have said, I was worried that it'd be annoying and woke, and those people should be questioned.
Something to note here about every one of the games in the showcase, they're all day and date Game Pass games. So
yes,
that was another element of this. Like, there was a confidence in what they were showing. There was release dates that are very soon. This game's coming out in early April, I believe.
April 8th,
April 8th, and they're all also on Game Pass. So and this is from someone who's not an Xbox player, I thought this combination of games that was shared was probably one of the strongest, hopefully, directions of like, here's big reasons why you need to be on Game Pass for new IP that we've been acquiring and doing so much, like bringing it in. Now you can seize the fruition of some of that.
I had one other point just for the gameplay. She does have a grappling mechanism that's very similar to like the Spider-Man games, which I thought might interest you, Ken, if you don't have to pay for it. She does do this kind of like launching of whatever this wand thing is that'll connect to stuff that allows her to swing and kind of do some motions like that. She can float or glide, so to speak, if she gets enough air. Again, this is the South, so you're not going from building to building, going from like, tree moss to tree moss, but it does have that aspect to it as well. Now we can get into
Pat, actually,
Clair Obscur.
I interrupted Pat, so I don't know if he had another point we want to touch on.
Oh, I was just going to say, I would expect this, given the theme, to be a lot more horror-based than even the trailer would entail. And I would imagine that if this is a hit, we'll be visiting Appalachia shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining like what you could do with this and how you could.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
but I would have expected to be a little more horror-based, frankly.
For those that are looking to go to Appalachia, which depend on who you ask, that's how they say it, supposedly. But there's also you could also go there in Fallout, the one that's on Xbox that we played, and
Fallout 76.
There you go, 76. Sure, why not?
Okay.
That's also based in Appalachia. But anyways,
I think another Fallout game is supposed to be coming out this year.
I mean, just
like 20 years from now. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You're definitely considering discussing making the beginnings of a plan to have the concept of a Fallout game.
Or we can just go back and fix one of our old shit ones.
Perfect. No.
Mods.
There we go. Mods.
They've already got. I mean, they're kind of just pulling a GTA 5 there. We're just like, no, we can just correct everything else in this one and keep them coming back. And it worked for GTA 5. Like
I know that ran what 10 years.
Yeah,
it's still running.
Yeah, it's still going.
Well, yes, it is still
running. Sorry, three iterations of platforms.
Yes.
So, I mean, if it ain't broke, we gotta fix it because we need
fix it again.
If it ain't broke, microtransaction that bitch.
Season passes, baby.
There you go.
Yep.
Unlimited downloads.
It's only $30 a quarter. Don't even worry about it. It's cheap.
Yeah. What is that?
You're ripping us off.
Is that one Coke a year? You're good.
Fine.
All right. On to Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Launch April 24th. Ken, get out your rant.
Okay.
There's a rant here?
Oh no,
you didn't like her name.
Clair Obscura. The name Clair Obscura. It's like Savaggio Press. I'm like, we couldn't come on. Like it's what's gonna be obscured? Like just it's too I don't know, it's too simple to me. It's too on the nose. I want to give you a little bit something better here.
Well, what do you think based on the title, what do you think it's on the nose about? Like without
they're
knowing
obscuring something. She finds things that are obscured.
Okay.
So I mean, I have no idea.
Well, the game is it's a turn-based RPG game that's based around there's a giant monument, and every year this monument has this giant like entity come and paint a new number counting down, and whatever number. So now at the time setting of this game, the number is hit 33. Anyone who's 33 years old just like Thanos snaps and disappears. And so every year it just goes lower and lower. And the characters you follow become a group that wants to go and stop this. They're like, this needs to end.
Did the same thing happen at 34? Did all the 34-year-olds disappear?
It's happened. I forget wherever it started. When they did the showcase, they did like a larger storyline overview, but it one day just appeared in this world, and it's been coming down, and people have tried to go out and try to this monument, but they failed. There's many things that come up, and it's almost like a journey and challenge that comes up with it.
But that to still go back to that, my question is, and when it was at 34, because it was at 34 before this and 35 before that, did all the 34-year-olds disappear, or is it that every year a new? Yes.
Is
it okay? Because otherwise, I was like, no, at 34, everyone got ice cream cones, and then at 35, we got bunnies. Like, what was each thing? If it's just if every year people like
Pizza party.
Like 32-year-olds also, here's what happens if you're 32 and then tomorrow they do the Expedition 33, but your birthday's 2 days later. Do you disappear retroactively? And as like,
we've all seen Back to the Future. You just disappear. You fade.
Yeah, that's where I'm just like, it's there's questions here that I'm like, wait, and so also since time is linear, like people who are 30,
is it though, Ken? Is it?
Yes, because the people who are 32 now, like they're just scared shitless because no matter what, they're done for. So like,
unless they stop it,
but
they have hope.
But we already know that it's gone on for
hope.
At least 3 years. So what's the? Also,
get better fighters.
They just better. No, they disappear as if it by magic. So what does it matter? Like I can't punch air. Like I mean I can punch air, but I'm not stopping them. Pat, you're muted. So
Pat, your mic is muted.
Love you. We love you though so much.
Dang it, Ken! Once you re-rant, once everyone knows that once you hit 34, you've given up on life and you can disappear and nobody cares. And when you hit 33, that's like the last year where you care enough to where you'll fight back.
There you go.
I would
Everybody
say
knows
that's generational.
It's
I think
art
boomers
imitating
are
life.
there are still boomers who are 80 plus, and they're just like, no, I matter. I'm affecting the world in positive ways. Positive ways?
They're not in this world.
No.
Yeah,
They are in fact the monsters.
Okay.
I do like the idea.
That's why they keep coming back.
Yeah.
I do like.
Remember
the idea
me?
that,
I'm not going away.
It started like age 107, and like one guy disappeared and went, "That's weird." All right, well,
Well, and again, if they are just disappearing as if by magic, just like you turn around, they're gone. Then also like do we know that he's actually gone, or did he just like go down the hill and he's not coming back up?
I forget how it's depicted visually, but at least when I'm reading the description, it says the paintress, and she's the one that is this large godlike entity, kills everyone at a given age when she draws that number in the sky every year.
Gotcha. So what you're telling me is that the true answer has been obscured at least 34 times.
And we're here to clear it up.
So I wasn't on board with Ken's anger
Now
towards
you
me
are.
until you made that joke. Now, okay, wait a minute, guys. Come on.
You know what's funny is I have not referred to this game by that. I just call it Expedition 33.
Me too.
And I think it's one of those games where I'm like, you guys should have maybe like
Gotten
quality,
rid of the first part.
tested the title a little bit. But what's an RPG without a weird?
Sadly, they did, and it rocked. Everyone loved it. Those boomers are like, this is where we need to go with this thing.
Maybe
there were 7 other names in front of it before they settled on this one. This was a 70-word name.
Yeah,
game name. It was title.
But
I mean, have you guys seen the gameplay for this? This looks really cool.
Please watch the gameplay because this is my favorite of these that they showcase. Like, I'm so excited for this game.
It's pretty dope.
Turn-based RPGs, I think, are a hard thing to, in this day and age, kind of, showcase and present and be like, hey, play this game when you have so many things that are way more, keep you going moment to moment and engaging and stuff. The tried and true old-fashioned turn-based RPGs, like, okay, how do we modernize this in some way? And many games try to do that by how they dress it up visually, and which this hits on, I think, in a big way. Many of the moments feel like they're cutscenes, but they're just like UI, moments that you're going between menus. But then they kind of do the element of for me, it dates back to Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars. And that game, it was a turn-based RPG, but there was interactive moments in the combat where if you time it right, a button input would do additional damage or help you block damage and reduce that damage. And so there was still a little bit of like interactive play that was introduced. This game, from what the showcase showed, it has elements of that as well. So to me, I think those are like
time events into the middle of.
It's optional. I think it's like if you really want to min-max and like put it on the hardest difficulty or like really like squash an enemy or something, you can really combo up and do those combos or do those inputs. But it doesn't seem like it's necessary from all things. We'll see. But on top of that, it's got a crazy cast. Like they got Charlie Cox as voicing the main character. They have Ben Starr, who also was in the Final Fantasy 16 as the main character. Andy Serkis is one of the other non-human protagonists, I think.
I don't think Andy Serkis can play a human in anything.
The Prestige. He can play one of the Prestige.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only time I'm like, hey, it's you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm super stoked about this game. I've never seen anything from the studio, so that's the only thing kind of really keeping me a little hesitant. But they've made a strong showing, and then this showcase, like, they did a funny thing too. If you go back and watch the direct, their showcase, every time they like pitched it to the next guy, like, okay, Kareem, you take it away, and they did this huge pan in of like level designer Kareem, and it's just like this crazy all-star lineup. I'm like, that's how you need to amp your team up, is like make them feel like these all-star
We
players.
can do that here. Kareem, make your camera do the thing.
No, I did it earlier and I couldn't fix it, so I'm gonna leave it as is. It was just like a
It'll
shot
happen
of my
periodically. It just
Yeah,
it's like,
it'll do it
what's
on
up
its own.
now? Dang it. I was just watching the trailer, and there's and by the way, Andy Serkis was also Claw, Ulysses
Yes.
Claw in Age of Ultron and Black Panther, so he played a human there too, guys. Like,
Yeah,
How
he was
you
also
missing
killed
two-
off.
he was killed off, but he was awesome as Claw, Ulysses Claw. I enjoyed that. His performance
That's
was
a good point.
enjoyable.
No,
He
I'm
tried to
saying,
drop a
I
mixtape
didn't
in the
say
middle-
I
in
didn't
the
say he
middle of the
wasn't.
movie.
I didn't say he wasn't good as a human. It seems like 90% of his roles are some type of monster or animal.
I mean, you can say the same thing about
Who?
Alan Tudyk. Like, he plays
No.
a chicken in Moana. He plays a robot in Rogue One. He does
He
a lot
voices.
of voice.
He does a lot of voice acting. There's a difference between voice acting and like acting as an animal or a monster.
Oh, he's voice acting
as
here.
K2SO, and yeah,
What's up?
he also does the mocap for K2SO. I don't think he did the mocap for King Candy, but it's just.
I don't think he did it for
Turbo.
Hey Hey either.
You don't know. He may have been like
You
in the middle of the and they
Perhaps.
mocap the whole chicken.
Perhaps. The thing that got me for this expedition game was in part of the trailer, they showed a daisy chain of combos amongst the three players all at once, where I was like, to Kurosh's point, this is updating that, more static, turn-based. They used to be like, all right, I did my move. I'm going back to my position. You do your move and you go back to your position. This is like interacting with the environment around it so that the players that would have been just standing there have to actually do other stuff as well. And then if you can, I guess if you do the combos well enough, they're all doing stuff in a more cinematic aspect. It kind of just gives the game more feel versus, again, I did my move, I go back, you do your move, you go back, kind of thing.
Yeah, Pat, Ken, I have a question for you two of like, is turn-based RPGs like your jam, like in gaming?
I think that Pat was a Final Fantasy guy, right?
Yeah, I was like early Final Fantasy guy, so probably dropped off after 7, and then
That's when it started getting good. Fucking train.
And then I'm a little more strategic RPG stuff. Like I really love Valkyrie Chronicles, and then some XCOM stuff because it's like I like the ability of you actually moving around the field and altering how that alters combat, as opposed to like kind of the menu battles that I experienced on the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo. Like it was kind of like, okay, attack level 5, sword. That didn't really engage me. Whereas like if I'm maneuvering around the field and to some degree and altering the frame of battle, I feel like I'm doing more like Gears Tactics. Like that's right in my space. So
how did you like
I am
Midnight Suns then?
That was fine. The card battle system. Yeah, I was gonna say the card battle system made it get repetitive, and also like there were certain aspects of like I'm trying to think of just like the character design. They felt very kind of just like blank and just general. Like, oh, that's a close approximation of Doctor Strange. Same thing for as I really enjoyed some of the storytelling and the story in Marvel's Avengers from the one that did tanked and did it really horrible.
Yeah,
There were some,
Marvel's
like,
Avengers,
I
the
love-
live service game.
Yeah, and like the play up when you start playing as Kamala and her running through the city and then running from aim, that was a lot of fun and great.
That was
But
fun,
then like some of the character designs where it's like, oh, this is Captain America. I'm like, that's not
Is
Captain America.
Hey,
Like, that's
he's
like,
white enough, Ken. That's all you need.
That's not Tony Stark. That's Tony Stank. Like, why is he here?
Hey, he's
Like,
got
Midnight
blue t-shirt
Suns
on and
doesn't
blonde
get
hair.
enough
What else
love.
do you want?
I love. Not enough people played Midnight Suns. I feel like
Yeah.
that game had interesting systems. I
was all ready
to see
for it,
them.
and then I got into like the first couple battles. I was like, oh, this is gonna
Yeah,
be
and
a trudge.
And the card system of like, oh well, I can't do that move that I want to do because I didn't pull it. Well, no, I if I'm playing this character, I want to do my moves. I want to know I could learn and
Did
adjust.
Did you change your deck at all?
I don't think
or, like,
I played long enough to get to that aspect of.
I didn't mind that if it moved as quickly as other card-based games. Like if it moved like I do a move, they do a move, I do a move kind of thing, as fast as say like you played Snap or something, then I wouldn't mind like, all right, I didn't pull that yet, or I didn't pull it in that deck, but I can get around to it throughout the battle at some other point. But it was moving so slow that I'm like, not only did I not pull, but it took me forever to do what I do have in my hand to get what I need done. And it's kind of repetitive. So I'm like, other than the character design and the fact that it was like a Marvel based game, I was like, if this were anything else, I'd have been like, yeah, I'm good.
I see.
Yeah.
Much sooner than I said that.
Yeah. And with that too, with to the repetitive nature, I'm like, oh, I'm fighting another Hydra agent or AIM agent or whatever. And their designs were just kind of pretty mediocre, like generalized and mediocre at least. And I would like a better character design, especially because unless you're going to fill it up with more villains instead of just like, oh, well, here's Venom, but then there's 4 Shield or Hydra agents. Like, I want to fight like other things and symbiotes, and like I want a little more variety in the designs, and that added to the repetitive nature. And then also the card draw deck building aspect, I never kind of felt like I got a good hold on that. So I'm just kind of like, and there were plenty of other games too, so it just drifted off into the ether.
That's a good point. And here's the thing too about these games that we're talking about today with the Xbox ones. I'm hoping, and this being part of the Game Pass pitch, is that so many games, and this was something I thought very much about South of Midnight. I don't want them to add fluff to the game. It can be a 10 to 20 hour experience and be a tight 10 to 20 hours, as opposed to, hey, we need to make you feel like you got your money's worth. Because I think having it be part of that Game Pass equation alleviates that feeling of, oh, I got to get my total money's worth, as opposed to this is part of a catalog now. You can enjoy this and then go. And now that we've got you in Game Pass, you can enjoy our other things as well. So I'm kind of hoping that these are not consuming, like you were saying, kind of like, I'm going to go play other things. I want a tight experience here just so I can then go on to the next one that they've showcased. The next one, like all of these are kind of releasing around the same time. It's like starting between early April into maybe a little bit of May, I think, with the exception of the next one that we'll talk about. But yeah, just something about length of game comes into a factor with how I think Xbox is able to utilize some of that and leverage that. Is how much do I need to face this game? How much do I need to make this the game I play for the rest of the year? No, you don't. Please don't. For me, at least.
And see, that's maybe another aspect too. Is like right now I'm deep into Unicorn Overlord, which is a 9 months back old game that got released, and so I've really just kind of been digging into that because it's a single player experience, and I enjoy that. Like a lot of games that get pushed higher onto my list are often pushed there by co-op. That can make me go into a game where I'm like, oh yeah, this is not something I'm gonna run like on my own, but if I can get friends in there, it's gonna make the experience 8 times better. Like on that note, I really wanted to play the new Indiana Jones video game, but my Game Pass expired, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm just gonna leave it there until I get back to it. And like, I don't really think I'll be playing it until either I get Game Pass again, or unless I find a good sale price. So, because it's a single player game, so it's like it can go on the back burner kind of thing.
I see.
Speaking of single player games, I believe the next one should be right. Is a single player is Ninja Gaiden 4 that they have the official trailer for?
It better be.
I mean, everything's multiplayer to some degree these days.
Yeah,
I'll be playing the same player, which is kind of boring. But I mean, I've always gotten Ninja Gaiden just for the single player aspect of it anyway. This one looks just as good as the other ones before. It gives me, I don't know, just by the character design, it reminds me a lot of Metal Gear for some reason. That's the feeling I got for it.
With like Raiden?
Yeah. So
I definitely see that.
But they amped up the blood on this one. It reminds you of a Tarantino kind of flick with this one.
Makes you dream of like, man, imagine like a Tarantino piece of work in a video game. That could be wild.
It's pretty crazy, but it looks fine.
Oh, go ahead, Ken.
I was gonna say it took me back to the original Xbox when that was out. They released a version of Gaiden for that, and I'm like, I was a system that it was a game that made my friend buy the system. He's like, oh no, I want to play that. Like this is something that made him jump platforms to get that new game. And it's interesting to see this many years later. And I'm like, I haven't played any of them since. Like that's something I would watch my friend play, but the bloodier. I'm seeing that the visuals now. I'm like, it's definitely like they amped it up. I'm curious.
I-
I don't know.
and
I
I
do
think
remember
part
it
of
being
that-
very punishing though, to
Yeah.
a certain degree, kind of Dark Soulsy before Dark Souls at that time. And so I'm kind of like, ooh, I don't know how much I want to just get my ass kicked for fun.
That's a good point. I think some of the things here too is from what I understand is that they brought in it's whatever main studio is doing it, but and I have to look that up, but they are partnering with Platinum Games who have done I believe like Bayonetta and
that
one
makes sense.
specific game that I love from PS3 or Vanquish. I don't know if you guys heard of that game or know that game, but it was very high octane, fast paced, kind of like just zooming in around it, and like I saw that inspiration in this game with the Ninja Gaiden kind of like coding, and I to your point, Guy, I'm very much like, is this going to be a grueling thing, or is this much more on that flashier Devil May Cry, Bayonetta kind of vibe?
That's what I mean, that's what I'm getting from that. The latter is that it seems like it's a lot more that, and it reminds me also of God of War.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
The elements too of it being two stories. It's showing a present day and or not present day, like a future day of cyberpunky, world, and then also in the past. The future cyberpunky world made me like the way the environment looked and everything. I was like, can this team do like a Batman Beyond game, please? Like,
that would be
this
dope.
Like,
yeah,
I would like that a lot.
that would be pretty sick.
That'd be great.
It's
it
funny.
looks like a game. Oh, sorry, go.
Oh no, go for it.
It looks like a game that it will take me 2 weeks to figure out how to play, where I'm going to spam the jump button like nobody's business. That's all I'm going to jump. Just keep jumping. Just keep jumping. Attack? No, just jump more. Jump more. Like first 2 weeks I'm playing. I'm not that good. I know what it's going to look like.
Yeah,
fair enough. Yeah, you tag Platinum Games in the comment, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, I know they've done some stuff that I've played, but it's also they're the developer, not the publisher. So it's like, okay, wait. So they did Transformers Devastation, which I think is still one of like the best Transformers games out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's delisted of most things, but like people who love G1 Transformers, that's probably the best game you're ever gonna get if for that era. I'm not saying that War for Cybertron was bad, but as far as like G1 Transformers, the cell shading, all that design was really up there. They also did a Legend of Korra game, which I enjoyed. But yeah, those are the first two that kind of like pings off my brain.
The Platinum Games is in collaboration with. So this is Team Ninja. Team Ninja's the main studio, which
they've
historically
been Team Ninja's been the one developer since the beginning. Like that goes back.
And they've done like Neo, Ninja Gaiden, like you said, Dead or Alive
5, yeah,
and Rise of Ronin, which I believe came out last year. Friend Earl Balin was one of the voices in that. But yeah, Platinum coming in is a crazy combo. And I love those games.
Did they do Dead or Alive beach volleyball? That's the question I need answered, because
we'll have to talk to them.
Who did do that?
I have no idea. I just remember like there's things that I remember because the same friend who bought the Xbox for Ninja Gaiden bought that game as well. But like the things that at the time that they were doing, like, oh, you can just rip an entire CD to your Xbox and then play it during the game. And I'm like, oh, that's really kind of interesting. You could do that with the Xbox 2 later on, I saw, but like just that aspect, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I like that.
It was Team Ninja that did the Extreme Beach Volleyball.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah. So we're in good hands.
Yeah.
So Ninja
bouncy
we're gonna run into some boobs somewhere in this game.
Oh yeah, that's goes without saying.
All right. Well, just final thoughts on the showcase, because I know there were a couple more. They had the announcement about Ninja Gaiden 2 coming back to the platform.
Which is out already.
Yeah, I think it was launched the same day that they had the announcement, and some other minor games, but these were the main ones I thought we should talk about. But if you guys have any ideas on just the idea of I don't know if we haven't covered it on this pod, but the idea of the game showcase going away and being replaced with these more controlled versions for the studios themselves. I think Nintendo started it back right before the pandemic. They were like, hey, I'm pulling out of E3. We're gonna be there in LA, just not in the main studio. They're like, oh, we're gonna be across the street. And people are like, why? Like, because we can fucking do that. We're Nintendo. And then Sony, I think, did it the year after.
They've been doing it. Yeah.
And then Microsoft was like, well, we'll do the same. So I just wanted your guys' thoughts on like I've been to E3, had a great time. Been to some of the other comics, and I know developers rely on it. Studios rely on it too because they can sell swag and merchandise and how you network and stuff like that. But if these kind of things where they have them every quarter, I think it's every 3 months or so, they'll have another showcase of something else in the gaming world. Do you prefer these now that we're not going to these things anymore, or would you guys like to have E3 come back?
As someone who never attended an E3, I had a ticket one year but didn't make it because of life. It's the internet age, so I'm just kind of like, I'll watch a trailer when someone shares it in a Discord or in a chat. Hearing the level of opulence that they've gone through in the past of like, even if not part of this, but also where they'd have gaming events where like, oh, they're gonna fly you to Montreal to see this game that's themed about, it's in Canada, so we're gonna have you there. It'll be a whole experience just for the press to enjoy. And then you fly back and like you're supposed to report on that now. It's like that you gave them a vacation, and the idea of like these bigger events seem more just for the spectacle of it all, at least from my viewer standpoint. But I'm not really wowed by them anymore. But also, I don't know if I was ever super wowed by them. I don't know. We're not a best answer.
I'm going to take the opposite approach, and I would like to see them come back because I like it when they do these kind of industry-wide events where everybody gets together. And I think, like you said, it's good for especially the smaller studios, those mid-level size studios that can afford to be there and can get their wares in front of a larger audience. And maybe they couldn't even if they were just trying to push it online. Didn't go viral. Nobody sees it. Okay. And just in general, it feels like it's healthy for the industry when they have these type of events. The moment people start going to their own corners and controlling the message so much more, it becomes a lot more difficult to know what is and is not factual coming out of the events. If it's Xbox event, then Microsoft will go ahead and invite those that are friendly to Microsoft as opposed to the press in general. I mean, this is a bigger problem worldwide with a lot of different things.
Echo chamber. Is that what you're saying?
So I'm actually going to officially, I'm going to cancel my previous statement, and I'm going to back Pat on this. His argument was far more intelligent, and I believe in Pat.
I would say it's very it's very indicative of whatever the purpose
capitulation
is.
Ken strikes again.
Of the events. Like there are some that you want to get in front of the audience, and in those cases I think having a live like in-person event is very beneficial. I can speak from experience having gone to PAX. It's in a convention, but it's way more of a, hey, here's a bunch of developers, and a lot of the indie developers or smaller studios that are mom and pops or just like they're getting their start. It's a really good chance to connect with your audience and get real feedback and get real connections and understand what's working and what's not working. Whereas, Pat, what you're saying of like, if you try to do that at Xbox or at even the Game Awards, here's a dollar figure and I don't know where it's going. What am I right before the commercial? Am I during a commercial? Who knows what my audience is? Now, when you have a showcase like this and you handle it well and you know what you're doing, I think this is a prime example of them knowing what to handle. You have one or two big, like Ninja Gaiden and Doom are known entities. The teams, id Software and Team Ninja have a history, but South of Midnight Expedition are fairly new entries, and it was the way they blended. Here's a chance to get to know the team and get to know the developers behind this game. So often we lose sight of those developers when we do these showcases and it's just a commercial. I think that was a good handling of how they handled what they wanted to do here. So I think it very much is like, what are you trying to do? What is the goal of this presentation or showcase? You'll have an E3 where it is not maybe there is a public facing element, but so much of what developers get out of it in a showcase like that one is getting a chance to meet with publishers and get funding and get resources. And so that's its own, focus and effort and that it had. So each one of these, I think the important part of it is like, what is the purpose of this, whatever we're doing? And very clearly and very aptly like trying to achieve that purpose and staying on target, because not knowing what that your identity is in terms of whatever your showcase. Capcom just did theirs, for instance, today that we're recording, and it was, I thought, one of the worst ones, because it was very much like we already knew all these entities. They weren't bringing any new information in, and they just started reading off like, and with this pre-order you can get this, and with that pre-order I'm like, I don't know why we tuned in for this. What was the need for driving this? You weren't even showcasing anyone in your team. You weren't highlighting anything new in the game. And it just felt like they didn't have a clear, they're just like, we need to do one for the sake of doing one. And that I think is a waste of people's time. The last thing I'll say too is a lot of times games, the studios that make these, that make and go to these presentations or do these things, have to prepare a separate effort to do that for an E3 or 4 thing. They have to be like, okay, we need to do a slice demo of our game. That's going to take people away from our main thing. So it's like, how does that manage? What are the demands and stuff? So it's just something to know. Like, I think it's important to know what that context is. And that's the end of my little rant.
I would say, I think you hit the nail on the head, especially with like what you're talking about with the Capcom showcase. Like if you're just doing it because you have to do one because everybody else does, and that's just with everything. That's a bad booth at a conference, basically. Yeah. Like you're here because you have to be here. You didn't put any thought behind it. I do want to say, like with E3, I think part of the appeal of it was the general audience feeling like they are in on the behind the scenes. You're going to the event that is the event where all of these things are interconnecting, and you feel a little more a part of it. Like, oh, I'm in the back room there, seeing how that works and happens. So.
I would say PAX is the closest thing that still kind of captures a bit of that. It is one of my favorite conventions to go to, bar none, and it's so engaging. You get to see kind of a little bit behind that curtain. You get to see, even from bigger studios too, they have Nintendo there, they have Capcom there, but you also see things that you've never thought you'd hear or see, and then you're like, oh wow, I didn't know this is what went into that development and that journey and everything. So yeah,
I was gonna say, as an introvert, I prefer these videos more, but as a capitalist, I see why can't we do both. I feel like the events are there because they also help the local economy. Like you're going to get people rushing into this area to give money. You're getting people to save up for these. You're giving jobs, at least for the event itself. If it's only 3 days or something like that, they're hiring contractors to build stages, to staff areas, to rent rooms. I mean, it's just, I think it's good in general to get people in person to kind of get together and do stuff like that. Because again, if we were in college or just in high school, they could hire you for a few days, give you a check to do something that you enjoy doing anyway, as far as gaming and being part of the gaming community. That might get you an internship doing something else because you're doing this in person. We start counting pennies and dollars when we start saying like, all right, well, we can do this showcase on our own with less people, and we can even save more money by doing AI CG, CG intros, and start cutting corners on the employees. We don't need that many developers to employ to play the games, the demos. We can pre-render those beforehand. How do we keep saving money if we keep cutting out corners and just making this an all digital kind of thing that we control? So I would like to see both. I'd like to see have E3 and then have this be a supplemental thing that people can go in, to Kurosh's point, and you highlight your developers. You showcase the guys who sat down and drew all of these cells, people that made all the decisions as far as, and explain the decisions you're making, because you're not going to get everyone in person to hear that. So if Kurosh went in person, he can then come home or go back to his office or whatever, and then watch this as well and report on that if he's a reporter, or talk to his friends about it and share these clips online as well. I think you should have both. I think that'd be a good mix, but I think because of COVID, everyone kind of shifted towards this, and then all the studios were like, well, we could save money. And then they completely got rid of the other thing. And I was like, no, that's not the lesson we should have learned. But that's my rant.
It's interesting because there's parallels that I'm seeing being drawn to like specifically kind of showcase events. And I'm thinking of other media points that they've tried to do something similar and failed. I'm thinking of the DC Fandom, where they're like, oh, hey, here are our movies and some comic stuff. And it just felt empty and it didn't feel at all engaging. And they tried to make it a show out of it. They tried to be like, yeah, here's the stars. So it's like, to your point of like, let's save money. I'm like, well, they're still paying The Rock to tell you how they're going to change the hierarchy of the DC universe, which is random that this came up twice in the podcast.
I think you got a grudge. You got a beef.
I'm just saying, like,
Ken versus The Rock, ladies and gentlemen.
Rock WrestleMania is right around the corner.
Hey man, get your ass to Vegas. Be ready.
There you go.
All right, let's jump into our next topic. Unless you want to, you can put a button on this, Ken.
Yeah. And so, I was gonna say, there's also they also did the same thing with Hasbro. They've done their Pulse events where they've done a lot of we got the Black Eyed Peas to do a music set in the middle of one of our toy commercial things, because everyone's at home now, so we'll do it like that. And they've since, now that things have changed, gone back, they're like, we're just gonna pull this back again and see, we didn't really need to have these people in here to introduce things, which people are already here for whatever reason they're here. You don't need to sell them on the event. But maybe that's something they just learned after a couple tries. But speaking of which, by the way, I'm upset that the Capcom showcase didn't bring me any new toys for Marvel vs. Capcom, because I would have been here to buy those. I am happy that the Marvel vs. Capcom fighting collection is going to finally come to Xbox.
Yeah, I'm glad about that too.
That is the reason why I bought wanted the Switch. I'm like, I gotta get the Switch for this specific thing. It took me forever.
But it's on Xbox though, so why?
It wasn't mentioned at the time.
Why'd you get the old one? Why'd you get the old Switch? Why didn't you just wait for the new one? It seems like a.
Moving on.
There's a new one.
Switch 2.
I know. Sounds like you got taken for a ride.
I did.
Yeah.
She never said where we were going. What was?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. The ride is going to be the ass beating.
I was going to say this feels like one of those situations with that song, that "Baby It's Cold Outside." It's going to get very rapey very soon.
That took a turn.
That took a turn.
Next topic.
Switching it up.
Speaking of raping your wallet.
There you go. I don't know. I feel like Nintendo's got this in the bag. They're probably going to charge roughly the same amount that they did for the OLED one, because they know that this is working. But what are you guys' general thoughts of Nintendo was like, hey, if you guys won't shut up about it, here it is. That's it. Fuck off.
Yes, CES I think was what pushed the envelope there. So? Because so many third-party suppliers were showcasing this is the case on this demo model that we've shaped that. Let's say it's acting like the unit in some general ways, and people were like, "This is it. This is it. And then I think
no, it's not. Okay, we didn't say anything.
Calm down, and they did that little video that they had.
See, I was going in a different direction. I was saying because of all of the handhelds that were showcased at CES, they were like, "Hey, assholes, we originated this shit. Come get ours. Don't go buy these other ones coming out in May. Just wait a second. Here's the damn thing you wanted. Here's the Switch 2. Don't go buy the other ones."
Hey, Mario Kart 8 Super Deluxe coming at you right now. No, we're not making a part now. Shut up. 8 Super 8 Deluxe.
Because it was what, 30-second trailer, and that was it. And it wasn't even about games or anything. It was just, hey, this is what it looks like. Shut up.
I would equate it to, how with movie trailers, there's the trailer, but I feel like this was like a teaser. Honestly, it was here's some base specs and a general idea that your purchases. Kareem, rest assured, your purchases on the Switch will carry over. That was one of the points that they made. But outside of that, and a little tease of a Mario Kart of sorts, it seemed like that's what they were teasing. I mean, there's a lot to get into. The general thing is, I will preface, I'm very excited. I'm very much looking forward to it. I was a big fan of the Switch.
There's a butt coming along.
Nintendo has a reputation in my eyes, and every one of these Xbox has their personality and their own rhyme and reasons. PlayStation has their thing, PC's got their thing, but Nintendo's always been we're a little weird. We'll do something cool, but it's going to come with a little bit of weirdness, and it's just part of us.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the weirdness here. It just felt like, hey, that thing that everyone loved, hey, we're doing more of it, which I'm on board for, but nothing like this felt very safe. And I mean that in the best way, because I feel like that's what they need to do, built off of that success. And if you look going back and looking at hey, we had the Wii, let's build off that. And they went a little weird and they made the Wii U, which was not very successful at all.
So what you're saying is you want Labo 2. You want cardboard to wrap around your game system so that you can then do something else.
I think he wants them to bring back the Wii U. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Virtual Boy time, folks.
Virtual Boy, baby.
I want
Fire
Street
glove.
Pass. Like, I want that level of weird. If you guys remember Street Pass, it was like the 3DS feature that you, as your console, was nearby in proximity to another 3DS, they would have a little tag share, and then you would be like, I met someone from this region, and their me would be like that level of weird was like a weird that made sense, and there was a social connection that built around it of like. I'm going to conventions
We
and I'm
don't know
doing
if this
stuff.
thing doesn't have if it has NFC or not.
True,
We
but I
could
just
be
meant
having
like
controllers left and right.
everything they showed here very much played like it's what you know, but just more potentially.
So-
and even that I don't know if it is. Like it's a
So
bigger
more
screen.
amiibos is what you're saying. You still want more
Maybe.
amiibos? Okay.
I mean, they're fun,
Toys,
but
Toys to Life had its run, but let's go.
hey, it's Nintendo. They started with like the toys
Yeah.
and stuff. So again, just there's an element of weird that I always love about Nintendo, good or bad. And I just felt
You're
like
not king shaming. You're fine. I get it.
yeah. And Nintendo do your thing. But that was the most immediate thing that I saw. I'm like, they're here to win and to be successful. I just don't know what that means as a business. Like, okay, this is the new MO. What are we gaining and what are we losing? Are they going to be very similar to the others now that? And Kareem, this kind of goes maybe a little bit to your point, and I'm kind of going off for a sec, but forgive me. They kind of started the whole handheld joint, like it's handheld, but it's also a console. Everyone else is doing that now too, and some of them doing it better, some of them doing worse. But now, like that becomes normal. Then where does Nintendo find its identity besides its IP? Like,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I was saying in terms of handheld, this was the thing we had off air is that Kareem is saying that consoles are going away and everything will just be cloud gaming on your phone and that's your handheld. So is this a step in that direction that he's saying that like, no, there won't be a Microsoft Xbox after this generation or maybe the next one. And then we're just moving forward into a consoleless hellscape of everyone cloud gaming.
I don't think we're that direction. I think that consoles are still very much a thing. It's just that they're, and this is the split in like what the market might read, but people love their high fidelity, big, rigs at home with their OLED TVs that they've invested in, much like they do for TV and Super Bowls and all the stuff they want to watch. But at the same time, much of the gaming community is portable and mobile isn't quite there. And maybe it's like a flexibility of that, but just being able to take my Steam Deck just on the go or my Switch or whatever that may be, like packing that in. I think there is an ecosystem to be enjoyed there. I don't think phones have made it satisfying yet. Like they're doing better maybe, but there's still very much like I want to have my console and I want to be able to connect it to your TV or my TV or wherever I'm at.
My contention was not necessarily mobile, but the fact that accessibility for these consoles is going to change. So the idea of a dedicated gaming room with a tower / console that costs $500 to $700 every 5 to 7 years is going to go to the way or give way to the Switch, which is a console itself that you can basically pick up.
That's not what you said.
That is what I said.
You said cloud gaming. We're all doing it on our phones.
I said Xbox is not going to make another console like an Xbox.
They're going to make another point.
They're going to make one more Xbox box thing. And I think after that, they're just going to go to the console that you could do with the Switch, which is a mobile console. Like you can pick it up, unplug it, or you can plug it into a TV like he's saying and play it on a big screen. Or you can put it in your bag and walk away with it. But a lot of the power, which is how Nintendo's getting away with this, is going to be cloud rendered. Like you're not going to need heavy GPUs. You're not going to need a ventilated cooling system for a tower or anything like that. You're going to be able to take, I don't know, what is it? You have the Steam Deck, right? Steam Deck's pretty powerful as is. And any other power you would need for that is going to be done cloud side.
I don't know if it's cloud necessarily. I think the technology that's going to be the biggest push is the DLSS features of kind of that AI kind of bridging the gap of fidelity. I think that because of the cloud thing, you're dealing with reception, you're dealing with Wi-Fi. Yeah. I tried. There was some games that they were like,
you don't blame the game. You don't blame your internet. That's on the game. That was our contention of saying like, and my point was like, if I have a bad,
I say you blame the internet. You said you blame the game.
I say like that doesn't matter. If I can choose to have the gaming fidelity all within one console, I will do that. I don't want to worry about the internet. That was
my point. My point is that most games, 90% of games, you have an online factor to it anyway. So when you can't play that game, you don't blame the developer. You don't say, "Oh, your shit game sucks." You say, "Oh, my bandwidth sucks right now. I can't play the rest of this game. I can't get out of the game what I need to. I can't play with my friends online and stuff." So that's what I meant about the cloud. You said that you would blame the game, and I'm saying you blame the bandwidth.
I blame the Xbox. I will say Xbox is not working because Xbox is too slow. I can't.
The Xbox is the one. If you don't have internet, how are you blaming the Xbox?
Because in this case, I can play games that sit on my console. I can play Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge, just me, couch co-op, and the missus with me. We're playing that game co-op together, and it plays perfectly fine. No internet. I can play Unicorn Overlord the same way. There's games that can be played without an internet connection. Yes, there's updates. We've discussed this before, but there are like when I have issues with the internet, like when I'm playing Division 2, like that's acknowledged. I'm like, yep, yeah, that's this game's laggy. Like, and also I understand that other people's systems who are connecting to it, it's multi-tiered. But if I want a solo gaming experience, I don't want to worry about I can't. It's really laggy, and it's because my phone isn't loading stuff fast enough from the cloud.
For instance, like the need for a cloud connection, like I'll give an example. Prince of Persia Lost Crown is a perfectly like local single player game you can play on like your Steam Deck or your Switch or whatever. But when they were first launching it, it was like, oh, we're trying to connect to the Ubisoft Connect platform to make sure you have the cloud save. And if for any reason that disconnects or you don't have that, you're on this, it didn't prevent me from playing that game. I think if it ever got to the point where, and games have done this, where it prevents you from playing the game if it can't do its connection thing online, that without any need, that is a way of like, this is going to fail. We're going to go off the edge.
Do you hear that? Do you hear that? That's EA's music. It's EA's music. My God.
But the handheld thing, like that's one element, and this is kind of in the Switch sense. But I wanted to jump in on what you said about the Xbox. I think, and they've been trying to get this message. I think it's a difficult message to get across because it is so different from the way our heads are wired. Of like, hey, I have console, now I have ecosystem. I think what they're doing is a little bit multi-tiered. It is they want us to be in their ecosystem of whatever you're on. We want you to build your library and your portfolio on Xbox platform, whether it's your computer, your phone, your Steam Deck, your Xbox console or anything. Just play our stuff and be on our Game Pass stuff. So you're in our ecosystem. And then if you're an avid fan, if you're in you're the I really want to get the best experience or whatever, then that's where the console, the hardware comes into play for them. I don't think it's meant the same way PlayStation or Nintendo or have been vying, where it's like, if you want to do our stuff, you get our thing. Like that, I think that they're rewiring how they're trying to have people think about that. And I think they can only get away with this because they're Microsoft and they have just bajillions of dollars of cash. You just look at the acquisitions alone. Like they're investing in developers. They're investing in getting the studios on board. They're not investing in more like hardware, big ways. They can just do, if you can play the highest fidelity of a third party game or any game, you can play it here. Like, well, I don't think their console sales are less and less becoming an indication of their success as an overall entity, I think.
Well, they also got a head start on the data center stuff too, in order to push their vision of cloud. Sony can't do that. They're actually using Microsoft's cloud in order to run some of their cloud-based stuff. So if their idea is like, hey, we can't beat them, we sell 30 million Xboxes in a generation while Sony's, doing 60 to 70. We're not going to catch up to that. So we're pivoting to the cloud, which we do have a stronghold on. We have tons of leverage to use that. It's going to be a lot slower to go here. But if and when this does catch on, Sony won't be able to. We've essentially locked this in, and they won't be able to compete.
They're doing their own, like it's a weird dance that it's like they're both existing in the same space as many phones, like the amount of sales Sony platforms have out there just to play a handful of games. Like people aren't buying it for every console exclusive, but once you have it, you're like, okay, I'm locked in this space. I think Xbox is doing a lot where they're entertaining a lot of different things hardware-wise, but they're really just, as much as you're saying cloud gaming, the subscription model gaming as well.
Yeah.
You could have it locally stored or saved, but you're in that. You're like, I have this. I don't have one game. I have whatever they have coming in down the pipeline for me. The 4 games we just talked about, you can count on them just being part of your thing. The last year, Call of Duty Black Ops being day and date. That was the first Call of Duty to be on Game Pass, and that's a big like, hey, we're making sure if you want Game Pass and you get Game Pass, we're rewarding you and making you feel like a valued customer. I think that's the models that they're leaning towards as their like entry point, like get you in the door, just like come in, and then see where that takes you, and you're invested. But
we know where that model goes because we've seen it on streaming services. It's great right now until they like, well, we need to boost
everyone
numbers,
does it.
so
No,
so
well,
now
no. Well, to your point, Pat, they want to do what Netflix is doing, which is be there first, be there last. Because everyone else came out and they're like, oh, we're going to do what Netflix is doing. But because Netflix has the brand and they were already kind of grandfathered in because they're everywhere, it's one thing to be like, oh, you gotta download our app and then you got to do some weird, stupid code. I mean, like with Netflix, you bought a TV and it's like, hey, here's your Netflix button on your controller.
I mean, to your point there too of Netflix, they are getting in the gaming space too. You can get Hades. They're trying to have their own acquisition. Apple with their Apple subscriptions. Everyone's trying to like on the subscription model side. It's already being explored by existing entities as well.
It is. I was just saying the accessibility
exploited, by the way, but yeah.
I was just saying that the accessibility is Microsoft is going after. They did a deal with Amazon to put it on Fire Sticks. They're doing a deal with Samsung to embed them in smart TVs as just another app. Like you go to Netflix, YouTube, Game Pass. So that's where they're trying to get the leg up as far as everyone else. Because at Apple, it's like you got to buy an Apple TV, and that's how you get into that. Netflix, I guess you have to have a Netflix subscription. Everyone does, but I think that's where they're trying to go when it comes to streaming, Pat, is that they're trying to say, all right, well, when it comes to gaming, yes, Sony's going to jump into this. Amazon's already there with Luna. No one gives a shit. But because no one knows how to get to it. All right, do I get the Amazon app? Is it a separate gaming app that I need to do? Can I do it through Twitch? Like no one knows how to get to Luna essentially. But if you turn on your Samsung TV and it's like, I have three icons at the bottom and one of them's Game Pass. It's a lot easier to say, all right, I'm just going to start playing that.
I'm just doing the mental doom scrolling of, okay, we start here and it's great, and then they decide, well, we're going to remove these games, and if you want to pay for the premium tier, then it'll be $99.95, and then just
it's a slow boil.
Go down. Yeah.
Definitely.
You played your 45 hours.
And that's why some games I still buy physical copies of. And DVDs.
You won't be able to do that, Ken. You keep touting that like it's a thing.
I'm going to do it as long as I can. That's my point.
They're just going to take it from you.
Physical media is still here.
Yeah.
You're going to get it. Like, you might be, they may not reprint this book here, but I have it. So I don't have to worry about it being taken off the digital service. It's here in my library.
I'm just saying, you're tatting it like you're going to be able to continue to do this.
I feel like games
I can still watch my copy
way.
Of Kissing the Fool with David Schwimmer. I can still watch that. I have that. Jason Lee is fantastic.
I feel like games are struggling with this as a maybe not as developed as film and as music and stuff, but being able to preserve older stuff has made that challenge of keeping physical media working and everything like that harder. I'll have my old copies of games, but then if the devices stop working to be able to play them, then I'm like, okay, how do I how can I go back to this? Whereas I think the other mediums have made it a little bit,
you're not going to hard to read.
Well, books are one thing. Yeah. VHS, like other mediums, I think it's just become they were just so much more widely available, and games iterate so much that it's harder sometimes. And so that preservation is always like a struggle, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are companies out there that do limited runs of things. And so maybe you could find a copy of it in a new version or that. Or there's also retro gaming consoles that are made to emulate that previous system, and they can also emulate 5 others. So you can still plug in physically your old copy of X, Y, or Z and get it done. You can even still take your old copy of Pokemon to some shops. They can replace the battery. They'll save your system on a separate platform. Remove the battery, change it out, clean it up, put the new battery in, and then transfer your save file back onto the system so you still have that original copy. It's out there. These things can be done. So it's not like they're they're outside the realm. Yes, they are off the beaten path, but if you're the person who's like, no, I want to have my copy of Pokemon Yellow that I got when I was 13 years old, and I want to play it on this new handheld device that I have. It's the means are still there because there's still money in it. So people are going to make money changing your battery and giving you new consoles. Kurosh, were you about to grab a copy of Pokemon Yellow? I thought you were going to.
I have it. It's not in the immediate drawer. I thought it was in my Game Boy Color.
Bless you. All right.
I got my little Game Boy Color right here.
Yeah, that's all I need. That's all I need. I can show you my picture of my copy of Resident Evil Gaiden and be like, this game was atrocious, but it's all I had, so here we are.
What did you guys think of? I mean, we were talking about a lot of stuff. What did you guys think of the Switch 2? Like what they showed? I'm kind of curious.
Seen it before.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
games.
I'm like cool.
I like the changes they made though.
So to what your point was, I think you said there's some backwards compatibility, so I can still play Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
Yes. Yep. Okay. You can still play Hello Kitty Island Adventure. Greatest hit of 2025.
There you go. It's coming. March comes around. I'm like, I got a game and I'm ready to go. Let's go.
I am disappointed it's not as colorful. To your point, Kurosh, that it seems like it's really just a very corporate. Like, all right, here's your all black. It's bigger. Shut up.
I feel like they'll do.
They're gonna sell you Joy-Cons in multiple colors.
Yeah, but they started off the Nintendo Switch with that. This one is literally just
again. I think this teaser was not very indicative of the whole package. I think April, which is what they said is when their real showcase will be, is when you'll see here's our base model that's like whatever, and then here's our if it launches with Mario Kart or if it launches with Metroid Prime, here's our edition of that game version console, and then in Christmas, guess what? Pokemon version coming, and this version coming, and like they're just gonna print money.
I don't know what you mean. There's no history of Nintendo releasing platforms in alternate colorways. Like they never released the Nintendo 64
I'm not saying
in
that.
7 different
based
colors.
On the announcement that I saw, it was very corporate. Like here is the
based on the history of Nintendo, you will get 8 different colors.
Yeah, but at least when they did the first Nintendo Switch, that was in that reveal, they had the color scheme already mapped out that way. It was like, here's the all white one, and then you'll get the cool, red and blue ones later. They gave you that up front, like here's the colorful one.
I think you'll see that in April when they do the
I'm not saying
showcase of like.
I'm sure they will, and even if they don't, you can always get the cool skins on your own and stuff like that. I'm not saying that isn't it. It's just the fact that they chose an all black one in uniform color. With very little changes except for the inside of the controller itself changing color and adding a few buttons and stuff. It just seems like they went for, hey, we're going to streamline some of the things that people kind of complained about or wanted adjusted, and we're going to make it this very basic thing. Here you go, here it is, and that's it. And here's your new Mario game.
And when you got Nintendo 64, it was just black and a little accent of gray, and then they gave you 8 different colors. I'm saying, like, just because the first model is that, you still have Game Boy Colors or Game Boy and Game Boy Color. They start with one.
Yes, but you didn't ask me. You didn't ask me what do I think about the future ones. You said about this trailer.
You asked about the Switch. We didn't ask about specifically just this.
You said, what did you think about this reveal?
Historical Nintendo data.
Not about what do you think about the future ones.
Yeah.
I think it's indicative of just that conversation of how much more console, just game space is iterating and iterating. It's like, hey, here's this one. You may not be excited about it, like you're saying, Kareem, but now we're gonna just milk it by like, for instance, there's a fear, and this is one that I kind of have because I've loved my OLED so much that they're gonna to hit a price point, they may take away OLED on the base model here, just so that they at a later date they could be like, here's the Switch 2, now an OLED, and I'm like, God damn it.
Gotcha, bitch.
Well, I mean, that's the worry of like, oh yeah, here's the Switch 2. It's with an OLED, but then here's the Legend of Zelda version that you didn't get on release because it's not released until the new game is.
Sure.
Good luck buying a second version of the format.
The Legend of Zelda thing, I just had a terrible thought. Is the whole reason we didn't get Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom DLC because they can then announce, well, you can get Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom with new content on the Switch too.
I think what they'll do, and this has been rumored, is that the launch library is potentially either Mario Kart or Metroid Prime 4 for the Switch 2. Obviously, they want to launch with some big game within that launch window, and then remasters of games, and possibly doing Breath of the Wild like remastered for whatever the fidelity of the Switch 2 is.
Unneeded.
Son of a bitch, I'm in.
I mean,
There's nothing to remaster there. It's already mastered. It has the.
That's why it's
sword.
remastered, Ken.
I'm done.
you got you. You got you.
Well, the other thing I was saying about the color black is because to what we were saying earlier about handhelds, most of the new ones that are coming out are all black too, which is going to make it less
really, Kareem,
distinguishable.
during Black History Month, you're going to bring this
Yeah,
up.
I'm gonna say the word black as much as I can. You got a problem with it, Ken?
I mean, just
Said
play
it
the clip.
5
Just play the
times.
clip. I'm back, and I'm black, and I'm back, and I'm black, and I'm black.
No, it's just, again, that was part of the distinguishing thing about the Switch. Not in addition to it being first, like you could identify someone who had a handheld Switch and be like, that is a Switch based on the color scheme. That is an Asus ROG Ally over there, and that is a weird MSI thing, like, because they're all black. They're all just big black honking handhelds. This thing is becoming bigger and black as well. And I'm like, all right, Nintendo, now you just look like the competition.
Yeah, the assimilation of that is kind of one of the worries. I think the other part for me is, and I don't know if you guys ever get this, but there's, Spotify Wrapped does it with music. Games like Nintendo, PlayStation, I think Xbox and Steam do this, where at the end of the year, it tells you what you did the most, where you spent your time. Never before until 2024, that was the year where I think I played my Switch the least out of everything. I was mostly on my Steam deck or PC or on my PlayStation. I played 1 or 2 things, and they were Switch exclusive. They were Nintendo exclusive things that I played. But for me, again, with that being able to play so many other things portably on other platforms, like I used to be like, oh, my Switch is my indie game place. Indie games come to PC usually first, and then they would, if they segmented. With the Switch, if they're trying to be so much like the other stuff, I'm still just going to it for whenever there's a Nintendo thing. That's like all I really use it for. So I don't know what's going to differentiate it when I say the weird stuff or even other stuff. I'm like, what are you doing that makes me want to come here? I'm not going to play Division there on the Switch 2, because guess what? The other thing that's like always like an omitting part of Nintendo is their online services are always convoluted and trash. It's like 10 years behind everyone else. So what are you doing that's making me want to come here besides portability, which I'm getting now by all these other things?
Mario?
Yeah, exactly. The IP.
Mario?
I'm here for the IP.
I want to jump back to something Kareem said. Going to the all black model, it is far less iconic than the Switch. It's like you point, like if you see someone playing a Steam Deck, you're like, okay, well, is it a Steam Deck or is it another like a Steam Deck ish, or is it a different model? If you see a Switch, it's iconic. That's a Switch. You know it from just the color scheme, or you'll see that the two either side of the Joy-Cons are colored something different. Like, oh, they're playing a Switch. Okay, so if that's the argument that you're making, I'm with you 100%. Yes, they are making it less notable to be, oh no, that's a Nintendo platform. Like you to a certain degree, you would want that to see like, oh no, they're playing the Switch. That's how you. It's not, was it free marketing or whatever you want? I'm trying to think of the right term, but it's like it's someone sees like, oh no, yeah, and so it's like there is definitely a standpoint to that where I can agree with that aspect of it.
Do you think part of it though? Because I think I tend to agree that we're going to see the black one and then the multicolor one, and you can pick whichever one I think we're going to see that. Do you think part of it is they're going after an audience segment that maybe doesn't want to stand out? Like, no, I want it to look cool and sleek, and I don't need to know I'm playing a Nintendo game. I'm playing what I'm playing.
I think it was a poor way of starting the presentation. They were just like, we need to put something out there because people are talking, and they didn't have their full presentation ready. And it was more that than any intentional. Like
10 minutes before, spray painting the Joy-Cons. Make them black. It's fine. We gotta go.
They're just like, get this video out there just so people kind of, our fervor is met, and we'll talk about it in April. And that's when we'll see whatever they wanted their initial leaks ruin things. Like, as much as we like froth at the mouth for a lot of stuff, I think that's the big culprit here is like people keep leaking things and it turns out true. And it's like, well, now where's the excitement? Where's all the things that people look forward to? And it leads to things like this of like, what did they mean by that? Like, is there a reasoning for that? Like, should I be reading into it? Should I not? I don't know. And that's a failure that just kind of stems from that, I think.
All right, we go to the last section or next section. We kind of fly through this one when we get to our main last topic, which is anticipated games. I got a couple up there, but the only ones I really want to talk about are Grand Theft Auto, Fable, and Avowed. But I mean, if you guys see anything else on there on that
I got
list,
a couple.
let me know. Yeah,
I've got a couple too.
Yeah, please.
I'm
by all means.
I will, but I say I will with you. You have the smaller covered release in the bottom. The Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra. I'm on board because of the cast. It definitely has like we this is in the group chat and stuff. There's definitely some story points that they're hitting that I'm like, that's a little bit weird. The design of some of the characters too does feel again like that kind of and it ties back to I think also what happened with Sony's Marvel Spider-Man is that they redid a model because they're like, we need to have it more legally distinct that this isn't that same actor. We want to have it to be General Peter Parker. It's a Peter Parker-ish type. And so some of that design aesthetic has been coming through in games more and more, and I don't like it. I like when it's like, oh no, I can see that model. Like they did a model like case in point, the new Spider-Man TV show. You can look at that and say like, oh, they base that off of Chris Samney art. That's his, hands down. You can see that. You can see back with the Sean Galloway one the same way. I'd like having those aesthetics to be like, oh no, I see this as this iteration of Spider-Man. When it's just kind of like a nebulous brown-haired dude, I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I do like some of the people they have voice acting. Like they have Kari Payton as it's not T'Chaka. I think it might actually be a Black Panther before T'Chaka, but I'm not 100%. But I enjoy the cast already, and they're killing Nazis, and I'm pro anti-Nazi. So that's Ken's example.
Alleged Nazis. Come on.
Yeah.
Podcast.
This is 1943.
They're just giving their hearts out to people with bullets.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think as a premise, it's very interesting. The part that is exciting and worrisome for me is the development side of it. Amy Hennig is the producer of the game, and she's got a great track record. She was the producer for Naughty Dog when they were doing the bulk of their Uncharted games, like all the first 3, I think, and involved with parts of 4. She did Jack and Daxter like way back when, but then the studio that she's joined, Skydance Media, I don't know their track record too much. They don't have too many things that I've seen that are of note, so it's a little bit of an unknown entity of like, what is this team able to bring? The last project she was a part of was the canceled Star Wars game that they were working on for a bit. They showed like a teaser of and then kind of dissipated. So I'm hopeful. I'm hesitant in terms of like what comes out of this. Like, what is the actual like game aspect as opposed to the premise?
I was a little worried about the story, at least from the trailer that it showed, because I'm like, is Captain America a good guy or bad guy in this?
And whenever you see a property being adapted, there's always the danger, and this has happened time and again with Star Wars, with other properties as well, Marvel and everything else. The constant overproduction of you need to get that vetted, you need to get that vetted, you need to get that vetted, and it interferes with that creative development side of like, I was making this character, like now you need me to monetize, now you need me to do this, you need me to do that, numerous things. The more things become a factor, and I don't know how much agency they have. That's always something to keep in mind.
How dare you move the Outer Worlds 2 into the also ran category?
I knew you were gonna have a problem with that.
Yeah,
I didn't like Outer
the
Worlds,
game
so,
I'm most looking forward to this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have an issue with it. All right, I love Obsidian. I loved Outer Worlds 1. Love New Vegas. Excited for this game.
I tried to give it a run with you too when I think we both started playing, and I fell off so hard in that game.
I get it. It's acquired taste.
It was well. Did any of you see the Terminator Survivors game?
No, I'm actually looking it up right now.
It looks dope, and I missed it. So it was on me, and I even put that in the. Like I said, I feel like again the ones I listed at the top, which were Grand Theft Auto, there's Elden Ring.
I don't have this list.
It should be.
Oh, is it in the tangential? Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah. There's Metroid Prime 4, Avowed, Ghosts. I don't know how to pronounce that last.
Ghosts of Yote. Follow up to Ghost of Tsushima for PlayStation.
Ooh, that could be. I heard good things about that. That didn't win a bunch of awards and stuff too.
Yeah, really good game. Really amazing stuff.
So that should be good. Borderlands 4, which I'm not super hyped on. I haven't been hyped on a Borderlands game in a while. Metal Gear Solid looks pretty dope, but I mean, those are the ones I think that most 90% of gamers are gonna find someone in that category. I felt like the ones down here were mostly for us. And if you look at the trailer for Terminator Survivors, I was like, how did I miss this? This is like right up my alley. This is the game that I always wanted, where they were like, hey, we're in the future now. This is the timeline that you're going to survive in. None of this going back into the past bullshit. And they made it kind of like a State of Decay, which I was like, all right, I'm in.
Okay. That's exciting. I mean, Pat, as insulted as you are, any of the exact games I have aren't even on any of these.
Rude. Just downright rude.
Please add your games. I apologize, Kurosh. What are you excited for?
I'll talk.
If you say Animal Crossing 2, I'm gonna turn this
No. I have 3 and 1 that's just a dream.
Okay.
The first one I want to describe, I think you guys would enjoy. It's called Dispatch. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's in the stylings of a Telltale game, and it's got Aaron Paul and Laura Bailey and many other people voice acting.
Are they selling drugs?
They're a dispatch team.
Yeah, you already saw a trailer for this in one of the group chats. It's a dispatch for superheroes.
Yeah,
and
it's like a workplace comedy of sorts.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
very interesting premise. I like that style of game.
Wait, is
like
this just that Vanessa Hudgens game? TV
that
show
was
a game?
That was a TV show, yeah. But yeah, you're right, Pat.
You just okay.
This is what happens when all the superheroes are away. We got to clean up.
Did you Death Stranding 2 on the beach?
Oh no, you're right. I do remember it. I remember it now.
Yeah. Like if you look it up,
it actually looks
good.
Really, it actually.
I want to play it because again, like he said, it's one of the Telltale where it's like it's the Walking Dead games where they're like, oh, which decision do you make? Do you punch them in the face or do you walk away? Like, those are fun, and it's definitely
it actually does look really good. Yeah,
I'm stoked for that.
I missed it by the name.
I think there's enough of a. And I think there's enough of a space between the previous iterations of games like that where I feel like, okay, I'm coming back to something I enjoy again. Because for a while there was like, we've got the Game of Thrones game you're gonna love. We've got the Guardians of the Galaxy
we got the
game.
7th Walking Dead version.
Yeah, another Walking Dead one, but Clementine's now a ninja. I don't know, but
yeah,
they definitely did a lot of iterations on some of those, and like you kept coming back. You're like, okay, are we still doing this? I don't know. And then there's the Batman game, which I hear was good. I hear a lot of them.
Yeah.
No. I mean the Batman Telltale.
Oh, that one was great. I love that game.
Right, and I heard that too, but it's also a matter of like, it wasn't on Game Pass, so I wasn't playing it for free. So there's just only so many games that I play anymore.
True.
So, Kurosh, you were saying Death Stranding 2 is on
Death Stranding 2 on the beach is one of my other ones. The first one I played, it took me a while to finally get to it, but when I did, it was I played it on like the easiest difficulty. I was just wanting to I just want to chill in this world and enjoy whatever weirdness that Hideo Kojima and his team are putting. And when I saw the trailer for this game, it was that with more like Troy Baker is returned as his character, but now he's wielding an electric guitar that is also a weapon, fighting these large. It's almost like, to me, it felt like they took Power Rangers like crazy ideas and just like put it into Kojima headspace and just made weird stuff. And I'm all for high production weird stuff. Like, give more of that stuff on the high level of like, hey, this is now accessible and available for everyone. So I'm on board for that one so much. And then
I put Split Fiction on there.
Oh yeah,
because it reminds me of like a high fidelity Lego game. And that
have you played the prior games for the studio?
I haven't. I just saw this one on there, and I was like, "This is to Tim's point. This is like your couch co-op thing that I was like, we've been missing for the last 15 years or so, and it looks really cool."
This studio does such a good job with all of their games. They all share the similarity in that they're all co-op like they're required. You have to play it co-op. You cannot play it by yourself. Okay. But with that in mind, they don't like this game and the prior game that won Game of the Year last year, I believe. Not last year, 2 years ago. It Takes Two was the prior game, and it was about a husband and wife that were separating, and they transform into their kids' toys, and then they go on a journey of just figuring adventure. It's platforming. This one being two writers, one that writes science fiction, one that writes fantasy, and they're both trying to get publishers, but they get somehow technology puts them in each other's worlds. Yeah. So they go into sci-fi and then they go into fantasy. You buy one copy of the game, you get 2 keys that you then give to a friend and you both play. And then the game itself, like the stories have all been great, and that encouragement of cooperative play both locally and online. Like they just do such a good job of encouraging it and making sure all of the barriers are gone, of being able to do so. I love that about their team and what they do. I'm excited.
I feel like I should put the smaller list above this one because we're talking more about those games than we are any of the ones that are up there.
I mean, there's one that's definitely like it's very bold in its statement. I don't know if you guys are seen lately, but there's one after Split Fiction, which I think is something we need to talk about.
Oh, that's Hades 2.
Hades 2, the new batch.
Yeah, Hades 2 I'm excited for. Sorry, Kat, I took your spot.
No, you're good. Go ahead. Tell us
But
about
Hades 2, I love, I don't know, have you guys played Hades?
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
Who's that?
Hades, no, you just set me up for a D's nose trip. Never mind. I couldn't follow through.
Walk right
I'm sorry.
into it,
I
too.
couldn't do it to you. No, Hades is you're set in the world of the Greek mythology. You're Zagreus, Hades' son, and he kind of has it where you're not allowed to leave, and so you playing the game is a roguelite of you trying to escape. And Hades is like, I've set up the most impenetrable underworld ever, but you challenge that. So Hades 2, you now play as Zagreus apparently has a sister, and we're introduced to her. And there's more Greek gods that come into play in this world. It's very similar to sort of the roguelike isometric angle, dashing around.
So cool looking. Yeah. The animation, the artwork in the first Hades is so on point.
It was amazing. And this one builds off of that. It's been in early access, but the early access they've said is pretty much like we've put out not most of the game except for maybe the final touches to the story. So I've tried to hold off on playing it because I'm like, I gotta wait for when the full thing is out so then I can just deep dive into it. But very excited. That's supposed to come out this year.
I've been playing Hades on the Switch 1. So it says before it was obsolete. That 1 week. It was awesome.
It's like living in the past.
I enjoy it on that one. All right. Well, I mean, if we're not going to talk about any of the top ones again,
we should just say, look, everybody is waiting for Grand Theft Auto 6. We get it. It's coming. We all know. We know what's coming. Mischief and mayhem.
Do you guys think it's coming out this year?
It says the end of this, I think fall. Yeah. Wasn't that the plan?
They also said that they're excited to release in a non-Trump presidency. So I don't know if that is going to play a factor.
Oops.
All right, more DLCs for Grand Theft Auto 5.
We should talk about a different game.
Or maybe they have something planned that we don't know about yet. Maybe just fingers crossed.
Either that or they're taking out a mission right now that involves the president and guns. This is 50% of our game.
Do not want the FBI to show up to our homes. Just gonna throw that out there right now.
We're not Rockstar Games.
Yeah,
Ken,
we're the podcast.
So I interrupted
Christian stuff.
I interrupted your game, Ken. What was it? State of
Decay 3. I thoroughly enjoyed the first two games, and I'm eager to see State of Decay 3. I don't think we have had any updates since. I don't know if Pat's leaving as a sign of protest, but we haven't seen
zombies
an update in like 2 or 3 years since they showed a trailer, and they're just kind of like, we're off doing our thing, which is to a certain degree fine. Like they supported State of Decay 2 for so long with just
I think the last update was like a couple months ago.
Yeah, at this point probably like 6 months back, but they kept up support on the previous game for quite some time. Added new things, kept
so
updating.
Much better,
they improved that game well over time. And for a smaller studio, that's like I know people like when the first game came out, there were people who had issues with it, and the same thing for the second one. But I'm like, this isn't like a AAA game. You're not paying for the new Doom. You're paying $40 and you're getting a really good game for that price. And I think a really great game from my experience from it. But there's a level of expectation people have for any game. It's like, oh, well, it's gotta be this and have this. And I didn't expect any of that. So my expectations were met and I thoroughly enjoyed 1 and 2.
I think
and so 3 is
it's Xbox owned.
Yeah, now
yes, Undead Games is now owned by Microsoft.
When
they Game Pass?
Undead Labs, I'm sorry.
Undead Labs. Between the first one and the second one, Microsoft bought the studio. So they're going to have even more backing for this because it's becoming kind of like a Sea of Thieves for Microsoft. It's like one of their
live service.
yeah, now that they've kind of let Halo kind of dither off,
Halo.
and
Well,
Gears of War kind of run their thing. These new other properties. I've always been making this argument that I think that Microsoft should get in more into the sim category. I mean, Sony had the RPGs for a long time. Like
So
that
Pilot Wings?
Well, I mean, they have Flight Simulator, which is one of the best simulator games in existence ever.
Yeah.
They also, I think that, their version Forza's another great simulator game. I think when it comes to, stuff like that, that's where they excel because they can use,
Excel.
Well, that too.
They have Excel too.
But imagine if like you were to do like a because they have big maps, so that you could do actual cities in the next state of decay.
Sure.
And just remap those to look like they were post-apocalyptic. But you could have almost up-to-date mapping on top, because that's what they do for Flight Simulator. They just use big maps, and you can literally fly the world in real time with other airplanes that are flying as you're flying in real time. Exactly. So, if you were like, Ebony's on her way home, you could fly next to her in the game on her plane that's flying back or whatever. So, I mean, imagine being able to do that with, real cities in the next state of decay or something like that. I was like, hey, lean into what you guys are sort of kind of good at accidentally, I suppose. But I also want to say State of Decay was one of the better survival games, thought out wise, that I've played in a very long time. Like they thought of a lot of stuff when it came to that game.
Yeah. It sounds like Kurosh, you're probably not too familiar with it, or
I'm kind of familiar with it. I've never really dabbled in it. I was just always like watching it from afar. The main thing I know is that, it being Xbox owned, and to your point of like price point and everything, I think this is an easy, logical step of it being like, hey, day one, Game Pass.
Oh,
Yeah.
very much so, yeah.
So
it will be I think once they bought the studio, they started going back and they remastered the first one and put that out as part of into the Game Pass library system, as well as the second one got released day one. I think I still bought it because I still wanted to like back the company, because it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it's a smaller company, I want to back them, and then they do a really job of community building. So for all those reasons, I was definitely invested with the company.
Well, they did the holiday stuff, which is, I mean, their 4th of July packs or whatever, and they had like a Thanksgiving one that was pretty cool. I was like, hey, they are thinking ahead when they map out some of this stuff, and not a lot of studios do that. It'll just be like, hey, here's another gun with a weird sticker on it, buy it for $5. You're like, really?
Instead they put out the holiday sweaters for free. If you played during the week of this, you get a holiday sweater that, it's like a zombie, whatever it's, and then they also would put that stuff in the world. So you'd go around and there was like, oh, why is there they had like I couldn't think of the word, but I'm gone now. They had like God, I'm not gonna think of the word now because it's gone, but they would affect the world in certain ways around the holidays themed to that. And like you could do like
seasonal stuff going on,
and they also had like if you donated blood and like did a thing, you got a blood van in the like essentially what looked like a Red Cross van in the game, so you could drive around the Red Cross van, and just fun little things that help to make the game more engaging over time. For a game that, again, $40, and it's like you're getting so much out of it. They keep updating, they keep adding things to it.
Oh yeah, they would add different types of zombies as the game progressed. So if you bought the game early on and you kind of went through it, a run or whatever, and the top boss was the Juggernaut at the point, they started adding different stuff. I think what's that thing called, the Hive or whatever, they started adding Plague Hearts, that kind of stuff, and the night zombies and stuff. They were just like, hey, you know what, if you've played through it and you feel like you're getting bored, let's up it a little bit. And we created another level of
and when is part 3 due?
I don't think we have an up to date. Yeah, we don't think we have an up to date release schedule for it. We had upcoming games on there.
So.
Yeah, it said smaller. Sorry, the thing said most anticipated games. That's one of my most anticipated games, so that's why I put it on the list.
It says they've decided to push the launch out to 2026. Microsoft says.
There you go.
Which is good. I mean, you don't want to compete with Grand Theft Auto.
I think a lot of people are struggling with that, decision, and like what space they're going to exist and coexist with that. So whether it comes out this year or not, I think will shift how certain other things release.
Do you think it won't come out? Do you think? I mean, because they
can push it back. They
I think it's a big enough. I think it's a big enough game where they need. It's almost like a cyberpunk situation where they need to make sure the launch lands and not go through a situation like they went through. Mm-hmm. And if oftentimes on these larger efforts, delays happen and there's a lot to polish. There's a lot of things they don't run into until they start integrating all the elements together. And I think that there's a chance that means it gets a push, whether it be just a push from whatever they were initially into a later part of the year, or just a full on, hey, this is probably going to be next year.
2027, baby. That's the year.
Maybe not that far, but I'm like, I think it's just as possible it coming out this year as it is next year. I think I could see either happen. They're a big studio. There's thousands of people working on this thing from multiple countries. So it's one of those, like, it's a big thing. For whether you're in games or even you're just kind of on the outskirts of the gaming space.
I mean, let's be honest. They're sitting at the top. They're gonna be like, "What are you gonna play? Saints Row, asshole? You're gonna fucking wait."
Yeah, wait to release it correct, like properly, as opposed to having a failed launch and picking the pieces back up.
Here's a question for you then: could they release GTA 6 with just the campaign mode and not have the live feature ready to go at launch and roll that out 6 months later? Do you think it's the live parts that would need? Like, absolutely. That's the question I would have. I think it could be elements of that. It could just as much be the world that they're trying to build and it needing to all integrate and work properly. Like
I was gonna say, I think the online stuff is going to come out later anyway. Like especially to the extent that we've gotten accustomed to. Like they're going to build on that. I think what's taking them the longest is just the story mode itself and all the detail, the mapping that they probably made the cities bigger. They made the AI as far as your interactions with people on the street probably more detailed, and they have to map, make sure all those interactions are all strung together. The vehicle collision damage. I mean, all that stuff in just the main game is probably what's taking them forever. The radio station, the licensing for all that kind of stuff. They got to get all the artists paid. I mean, that is all what they're probably waiting to do for the end of this quarter, beginning of next year. Then they're probably going to say, all right, and here's the online stuff. And they're going to, similar to what they did last time, we're going to build more
very much
side games and expedition things to do with that later. But we just want to get the
I do think, to your point, like that is a very integral thing that, like, if it doesn't work whenever it launches, it is something that they would likely push out whatever they plan to do. Like whether it be with the simultaneously or on its own later, like those elements are tricky and they are involved and they are often things that they don't see until they get the final pieces together. Because a lot of that's like everyone's operating in silos on these larger efforts, and then they only see it on the fruition of like, okay, we need to do enough quality testing. Oh shit, we laid them off. Oh, like that happens quite a lot.
Speaking of which,
yeah.
Oh, let's be sad now.
All right, Pat, introduce it. Go ahead. Last topic.
I think
everyone's sad.
Introduce it. The demoralized state of video game developers. They're laying off everybody. 10% of the workforce has been laid off. Everything is awful. Nobody wants to make games anymore because nobody wants to work on games anymore. Because I don't know. You let me know when you want me to stop.
It's that shitty Oprah meme. You're getting fired. You're getting fired.
Yeah.
I mean, just because the game I don't know if the game developers is the right person to blame this on, but essentially just the shareholders don't feel like they're getting enough money, so they've got to make sure they lay off more people. That's
what's crazy is games have never been more profitable, but never before have layoffs been so consistently, increasing. And
they got greedier. They got away with taking 20%. Now they want to get away with taking 30%. Like
that's one big element of it. I think there's a lot of like mismanagement of things. They like, for instance, EA will take. They have two big examples: the one that just happened and one that's potentially about to happen. BioWare, they made Dragon Age Veilguard, underperformed, like you said. Like they didn't meet their exceeding like crazy whatever benchmark that they had for that was a disconnect. And now that that same team was tasked to now work on Mass Effect 5, I believe since that didn't meet expectations, they're saying instead of keeping this unit together, we're going to disperse that team, distribute them to other efforts, and take that team apart and dismantle it and really bring it down to like almost like a graveyard shift-esque. It's under 100 people reportedly from Bloomberg, I believe, working on the next Mass Effect that they're still expecting a major success from. So that's one element. Then the other side of it is you got the next Battlefield that they want to make work as EA as a publisher. And rather than have one team work on it, they're combining 4 of their studios to work collectively on that game. And that seems like a gross mismanagement of now that we put all this extra energy towards one thing, it needs, in order to be any level of profit or any level of success, it needs to be that much times 10 more to they're just the management then stems from that also, like, I think goes closely with what you're saying of the shareholders and what they need. The sustainability of it is not there. Like, constantly they want the next they're chasing the Fortnites, they're chasing the Grand Theft Autos, they're chasing these larger things, and they're saying, why can't we want our version of that? And that's not how it works. There's only so much attention span, regardless of gaming space or regardless of just general space. Netflix, the shows you're watching, to vie for. So that shareholder perspective is really led to a lot of people failing in that way. And like you see it with Concord this last year, Suicide Squad, projects that didn't even come out. Last of Us canceled their multiplayer thing. Blue Point had a game that they were supposed to do for a God of War live service game that just got nixed because I think they started to see the writing on the wall of Concord and Suicide Squad, all these live service efforts chasing something. And it's just, how do you sustain an industry when all of these things are like, go bigger, go bigger, go bigger? You see, there's FromSoft, notoriously known for like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, most successfully recently. Went on, they talked to something recently of saying, we can't, like, that's not our culture, like in terms of the business culture, not like as they're I think they're a Japanese studio, if I may be wrong. But as a sustainable business model, they're saying we cannot do that. So we're not going to keep doing like Elden Ring 2, 3, 4, 5. We need to do numerous smaller projects with multiple teams working on them, and then ramp back up to do another Elden Ring when the times are right and when we can sustain a growth of that magnitude. We can't just keep going like banger after banger after banger on these large scales because it's not sustainable. And people know that. It's just, I don't think people in the studios that are currently running it or have any idea of that or any care of it. Yeah.
The people who make the decisions aren't the ones with a good hold of what's actually viable.
And then you see everyone... Oh no, go ahead. And then just in the fact of like, you see Microsoft then being like, okay, well, we have money to throw around. Let's get acquisitions. Let's merge and bring studios in. Well, part of that's going to mean you're going to have to streamline things, and then you're going to lay off people. In addition to then seeing like so like all of these things just shifting and changing, and studios not being able to. That would piss
me off too a lot, because I'm like, I feel, again, we're probably not going to get obviously with this administration, but maybe a future one, that when we have a merger like this, that they have to disclose these numbers before that, or declare that they're not going to lay people off, because they go through the books. They know what the numbers are, and then they sit there and lie, saying like, oh, this is going to be great for the industry. Like, you knew you were going to have to lay off 10,000 people. Like, you have accountants that say, hey, this is what the cost value is when we acquire them. And this is the number of employees they have. This is the number of employees we have. This is the number of overlap we're going to have. And this is what we're going to need to flatten. You know that shit before you go into the FTC or you go to the, EU commission, whatever. You know that shit. And you sit there and you lie right in front of them saying like, oh, no, we're not going to do that. Like, in order for us to approve this, you got to give us those fucking numbers. And if you stick to those numbers, you tell us this is exactly who you're going to lay off, then we could approve it, because that is the agreement we made. But if you come in there and say like, oh, we're not going to do that, and then you end up laying off 10,000 people after you bought them and we said it was okay and you told us that you weren't going to do that.
And then Kareem, why are you stifling business? Why do you hate the working man? Why aren't you capitalist enough? You sound like a socialist.
Do you not know why?
I like the idea of them becoming a publisher more than a console, because they were losing consoles. I like that. What I'm saying is, and I'm saying this not for Microsoft alone, but for any, if you're gonna do AT&T buys Verizon, you know what the fucking numbers are. You know how many people you're gonna have to lay off, what you're gonna overlap. Like, give the FTC or the regulating bodies those numbers beforehand.
But
And that's
then
what they make
won't-
decisions.
But then they won't approve it. Why would I do that? Then they won't approve
Yeah.
it.
well, because
I mean, unless you're
hold on.
okay with, I can lie.
Because
I
because
can
you
lie as long as I can lie.
you
That's
can
fine.
negotiate that number is what I'm saying. If you tell
No,
them like, hey,
no.
This is the
I-
thing is
you're
I think there's
anti-business.
elements of that protection is not there of like what would spurn them to want to negotiate to do it if they don't have to, if nothing's holding them to that, then they won't. I think one thing that you're seeing stem as a result of that, of being able to push for more of what you're saying, is the only thing that studios are realizing that they can do is one aspect being unionization. There a lot more studios are finally finding some ground to collectively join and protect themselves from, hey, you walk in the door, hey, pack your stuff, you're out of here. And even though you may have just, like Telltale was one of them, numerous other studios where they moved their families to work at these studios to work on these games that span years, that span like 7, you don't see a return on that. And if you got laid off midway through that process, your credits are taken off of the game. How is that even allowed? Like, you put however many hours into that, and you don't even get the credit to then say at the next job that you're trying to go for, I worked on this game. No, you didn't, because that last studio just screwed you, or that publisher or whoever. And so the protections aren't there to really enforce or to encourage them to disclose or to negotiate or do anything. That they don't have to. They're just like profits, immediacy, short-term game.
Yes. I'm not what you're trying to say here, comrade. But I don't like these communist
I'm
ideas
with them.
you have.
I agree. I think again, I'm more of the more is better. Like, why not have both? Why not have the FTC protect before they even have to get to the union arguments?
Because
say,
the
like,
FTC will be gone in a year, in a month.
Yes, fair enough. That is the reality we live in. I'm saying, had this, back when this deal went through for Microsoft specifically. And again, this happens, when Sony buys Ubisoft, whenever they buy a studio, like this wink and a nod to the regulators, like, we're going to buy them and everything's going to stay the same. And the regulators like, it's not, but here's your stamp. Like, you could stand up and be like, if you're saying everything's going to be the same, then we either find you or rip you guys apart when you start making those company-wide, employee-wide firings. Like, this was the agreement that we stamped on. Like, you said it was going to be the same. Why are we keeping our stamp when you broke the deal?
Because that other company hid all the books. They hid everything.
I
hid it all. We didn't see the real
I
numbers.
say,
I mean, another aspect of this
Someone-
that is
Then you didn't do your due diligence, and you shouldn't have. Then we're go back to the drawing board. Try again.
Kareem, someone wake up Kareem, because he's dreaming. Clearly, he has this. There's no reality in his mind that these
right.
people would face any sort of repercussions.
Yeah.
Why? What? No.
Well, here's the other
on.
aspect of it, that even if they don't, like, I feel like a lot of people think like, okay, if these large studios are always doing this, I'll just do indie. I think something I've learned speaking to numerous indie developers is that's faced with its own gajillions of challenges. Finding funding and being able to then say, I'm going to put all of these resources and time as a single or like a couple of people developers into making something. That's a risk. That money could just go down the drain. You don't have it's not a loss in the same way that a Microsoft or an EA is going to see it, and the shareholder is going to be a little nixed and then just go back to golf the next day. I think for them, it's become like, now that my livelihood is gone, like, do I have another job supporting me to do this? And what then do I do? There's freedoms that they'll have. They don't have a oversight of a producer or publisher saying you have to do X, Y, and Z with Captain America or X and Y. But then at the same time, there's risk. It's like, this is a non-existent IP. How do I get any kind of stability or no knowledge of, like, am I going to get a return on my investment putting the time and energy here? It's not without its own problems when we have so many games out there, let alone curation. Where can people find my game? How do I get it out there? That's a challenge in and of itself, and something that I'm trying to do on my side of, like, work with these indie games and put a voice to it and kind of put an extra thing of, like, this is why you should care about this or that. But it's so easily to get into this industry now with the tools and resources, but it's also just so hard to be found because it's so saturated and so just massive of a thing. At the Game Awards, someone spoke to this topic exactly of layoffs, and they acknowledged him as kind of like an achievement award. Amir Satvat, he started a nonprofit. We Help Gamers Get Hired is the name of the company. He was just an accountant and who loved games and just kind of like on the side was just a big fan of it. He just started putting a spreadsheet and a list of things like, I know these job positions are open, and just started putting things together and connected people between layoffs to different things that they could get. It takes things like that's what it's taking. It's not, you're not going to get it from the FTC. You're not going to get it from the publishers. It's people, you and I, kind of doing that efforts, I think. And it's sad, but it's also like, hey, we need to, there's an acting part to it of like, we need to do that. Otherwise, the place we like to spend time to play games. Like last year, Ken and I get to share time in Helldivers and doing all the crazy shit we get to do is because those studios are able to be funded to do that. Like it's a tough space now. And that's kind of like that give and take of like, what can you do and what can you not?
Well, this was the positive, at least the spin that I got off of this is for Game Pass. And if, Sony does something similar to it, or I think Microsoft has signed a deal with Nintendo and Sony to get Game Pass or at least get more exclusives onto their platforms, is that when you get the streaming aspect of that, you can get people to go back and find a way to play that game without the upfront investment or the major loss. They're basically unfortunately floated by the big players. Like they become part of that platform. They're a little less independent, but they get the visibility that they may have lost being in a small indie. Like, hey, you had to go out to my Kickstarter and buy the game, and people are like, well, I don't know if I want to pay $35 to play your game. It looks cool, but I'm not invested. But I paid $35 a month for Game Pass, and you're on there for the next 6 months. I like what you did. If there's DLCs, I'll add it to it. If I don't, maybe you guys come back around with another game or whatever, or I get used to, whoever worked on this stuff, I can follow them to the next I get to at least see you versus missing you all together because you were small and then you don't have any way to recoup from that. That was the way I thought the Game Pass thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's an element of it. I think the other element of it is like, you don't need the biggest win to call it a win. You like make your games smaller and just be like, our game is able to call 200 people playing it a success. Like, I think that should become more normalized in a lot of ways. And finding that balance of how do you make that affordable, find the models of business that work for you. Some games work really well with free to play. Others work better where it's an upfront cost and then everything's free. It's like, there is an element that's been abused of the monetization, the loot boxing, the gambling aspects of it. But I think there's a lot more to be discovered about how the financing of games can be adjusted to make sense for things and seem scalable at different like success levels. Like so many of these studios are like, we need the world to play our game to call it a success.
Yeah.
I mean, just hear me out because it's a good idea. Or one game that makes all of the money. All of it.
Perfect. There's nothing can go wrong with that plan.
Oh.
Nothing can go wrong with that plan.
It's just every dime.
Coming to the Switch 2.
Like I would really, how many copies does GTA 6 have to sell the first week for it not to be deemed a failure?
10 million.
Minimum. Yeah, I was gonna say
I think pre-orders have hit their metrics already.
Probably, yeah.
Well, that just means they'll move the goal. Oh well, if we already hit that.
Yeah, to Ken's point, they're just greedy.
You got to keep moving the goalposts. Yeah.
Yeah.
That me exceeding expectations. That's what we expected of you. You just met our expectation.
Yeah. What, you mean you're early? You're way late, asshole.
That is the way they think. That is how they think.
That's 1,000%. That's exactly it. Of
Exceeding.
like, if
I don't have any personal issues.
No, that's it's. I mean, it is that it's that generational thinking. I'm not trying to say boomer, but if you're if you're on time, you're late.
Time.
If you're if you're late, you're like it's all that kind of you gotta give 110%. Yeah, exactly. It's like you gotta give no, that's physically impossible. I can't give you 110%.
No, you're right. You're right, Ken. Especially with the way that these things, to Kurosh's point, are managed as well. That boomer mentality of, because it also is attributing. You read some of these stories that these guys are working like 80 to 120 hours a week, and I'm like that is also cause for burnout, less creativity. Like they're just pushing the buttons in order to make sure that the dollar sign goes up, and that in the end might even hurt the game itself, because people are like, I've already played a game very similar to yours, and there are 80 other versions of the same sort of game. What makes yours different?
One of the best moves I've ever seen any CEO do. I'm like, this man, everyone should meet this man and be like, you are not on his level. I believe it was one of the head people of Nintendo during the Wii U era, and they said, we have drastically underperformed as I think a console, and we have not hit our metrics. rather than go through layoffs, I am taking a massive pay cut and salary, a bonus cut, because I failed the company. I failed this leadership, and we need to, as a whole, like, you should not be taking the fault for that. And so he did that, and I'm like, Jesus.
That is,
like,
but let's note
my heart.
that was for Nintendo, not Nintendo of America. That was Nintendo. Nintendo of America wouldn't we're not.
No,
But
Nintendo of America.
playing up-
Nintendo of America
I'm
did the
laying up-
Homer thing.
Yeah,
but
right in
like,
the bush.
meanwhile, we're here, and Bungie, having Destiny 2 as a live service game, they just earlier last year, their final expansion, concluding 10 years of the game, comes out. It's a big celebration. Shortly thereafter, their CEO goes on a rant, or not a rant, gloating about this new yacht he bought, all these new cars. The next day, lays off countless people from the studio, saying they don't have money. Like, that's the mind
The
shift.
studio does. He has money. The studio doesn't have
Kurosh,
money.
that yacht wasn't free. Where'd you think that money went?
His bonus.
Yeah.
They get
can't-
parachuted down. Even
Can't pay for caviar in video games.
Bobby Kotick from Activision left the company,
piece of shit.
as he, but he had a parachute. He's like, here's your
Oh,
severance
he had a golden
package.
deal. Yeah.
Here's your thing. I'm like, this it's a systemic thing. It's not gonna just be like, oh, we just flip this switch, we're okay. And that's it's gonna take a lot, I think.
Well, I
shift
think
that.
the success.
I mean, that's
of
why
video
I really
games-
love Luigi. I'm sorry, we were speaking about Nintendo, right? Am I?
Yes.
He has
Am I
main character
talking-
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love.
I think
love Mario
that's
Kart.
that should be Nintendo's next
Um,
exclusive, just a Luigi game.
Bring back the year of Luigi. Maybe
Yeah.
set a precedent.
Yeah, Luigi's mansion, but it's like he's going to other mansions and doing. Oh, okay, yeah.
Luigi
It's like
stuff?
it's got a
He's-
Pokemon
and he's-
quality to it.
cleaning up this. Yeah, he's cleaning everything
And
up.
hopefully Mario gets on board. Otherwise, he's in the way. If you know what I'm saying. This game can be real interesting. Brother on brother violence. Luigi, what are you doing? Get out of my way, Mario.
You just got Luigi.
It's weird they put him in Rainbow Six. That was weird.
He's gonna show up I heard that Luigi might make an appearance in Grand Theft Auto.
It's.
I'm hoping
would
that's
be
one
out
of the
place.
missions.
I enjoyed it. It's funny because I enjoyed Grand Theft Auto quite a bit later on when they finally introduced heists and stuff like that, and we all changed our characters' outfits to look like the A-Team. That was a great moment. So I'm on board with getting those outfits to do certain, like, oh no, let's get to dress for the job you
All right,
want.
let's put it this way,
Not the-
Pat. Are you going to upgrade your console when at least Grand Theft
Yes.
Auto comes out?
Yes.
Because I don't think I've
That
ever.
and Outer Worlds 2. We're here.
I don't think I've ever played a Grand Theft Auto game with you. With like we played it, sitting on
Yeah.
the couch together.
You
But I don't
saw
think
me-
I've ever
you
played
saw
with
me
you in the
crash.
world.
I'm
You saw me
gonna
crash a helicopter in Vice City.
say
Oh,
something that I don't know is gonna catch me some flack, but I've never played a Grand Theft Auto
Ever?
No.
ever.
Anyone?
And
that
Not
is
even like the
interesting.
top down on PlayStation 1?
The closest
Like-
I've ever gotten to playing a Grand Theft Auto is
You
on
say
the
Saints
orig-
Row, I'm going to slap the shit out of you.
is playing Hulk Ultimate Destruction on my Xbox, and I was like, "This is
Wow.
what Grand Theft Auto feels like."
No, it
But
isn't
it's
at all.
better.
You were.
Like, all the police came when I started doing shit. I was like, "This is the same thing, right?" But I like this.
I would. That would be awesome if they incorporated a Hulk mechanism in Grand Theft Auto. You get to 5 stars.
The mods will get
person
there.
Just
The mods will
grows.
get there. Yeah, the mods will get there eventually.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen the
I-
Iron Man one. That was pretty dope. That was a pretty good mod. Now,
I just-
let me ask you, Kurosh, is there a personal reason you didn't play it, or you just
No,
not a big
it's
fan of open world?
No, I like it. Was always the wrong place for a long time. I didn't have a PS2 growing up.
30
and then-
years?
No. So to introduce, yes, for
For 30
years.
years, I've been in the wrong place.
It's
And
wrong
it's been
time.
the wrong time.
It's led me to this moment. I don't know, like in the earlier days when it was starting to build up with 3 and 4 and stuff, I didn't get in, and then I was playing other stuff, and then I never found a reason to jump in. I was like, I have other open world games that I'm more invested in. And
Okay.
so it just being present day, whatever the world was, I was like, that wasn't a strong enough pull. I'd rather do that in Fallout, or I'd rather do that in Cyberpunk, or I'd rather do that in any of these other settings that I'm more enjoying. So
I mean,
I don't know. It was always a weird thing that's just like been outside my gaming experience.
Okay.
2 words: Ray Liotta. go play the game. You can play as Ray Liotta voice. So much fun. That's my
Just
selling.
play
I think Pat's got 2 words for you. Dead hooker. That'll get you the game.
What things happen?
I don't have an endless budget. I got to get my money back somehow.
Exactly.
So it's not
Thank you for your
it's not
services.
like-
Give my money back.
it's not like I can't get the health respawned otherwise.
We would sell
really-
the guns and then just take the guns right back with the money every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Well, that was
We
until
didn't shoot 'em.
they, that
We
was
were
until they
just
started
punching 'em in the
arming.
head.
That was until they started arming the guys. As soon as you came in, like, oh, you can't bring your gun in, but I can have my gun. They really changed that up real quick. But I mean, is this something you plan on keeping? Is this now like a personal achievement?
No, I'll see
Grand
one
Theft Auto
how
version?
much this. I'll see how much this game is. Maybe
Oh,
$100.
if it
I
comes out on
think-
Switch too, maybe I'll
I think-
play it. It'll give me a reason to play my Switch. I see, but I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting because I have to pace now that I'm like not just playing games for fun. I'm also playing them for a lot of like the writing I do and and videos I do.
Professional reasons.
My time has become way harder to fit like a variety of new games every year. I'm like, I have to really be picky and choosy. So we'll see. I'm not opposed. I just need a reason or a framing to like get me into it.
Okay. Again, 2
So.
words. Dead hooker. Just let that float. Let that marinate.
I'll
No,
put that
two
on the
words.
box art. Like
I'm sure that doesn't
Kareem-
age well.
Kareem
That's
says
really
dead
good.
hooker.
Yeah.
Florida man. That's all you need.
There you go.
Florida man.
Yeah. Florida man.
I saw. Did I share that with you, Pat? They had the Grand Theft Auto come out, and then they had like the trailer for Florida Man stuff in Florida, and it was like a 1-for-1. I'll see if I can put that up. But it was like, am I playing the game or am I just watching news headlines?
Yes.
Well, with that being
We don't
said, I
care.
think we're at least ending on a better note than
Yeah.
Yeah, dead hookers in
Dude.
Florida, man.
yeah. Can't
mean,
go
I-
wrong with that.
I tried to end it on Luigi, but that's fine. It's
Hey,
okay.
I'm trying to let this video get monetized at some point. All right, you're gonna get us banned from YouTube.
Who doesn't love Luigi's Mansion and Super Mario Kart? I just realized how old I am because I said Super Mario Kart, not
Yep.
just Mario Kart. So
Come
think
on,
we're-
boomer, get out of the
yeah,
way. They should be talking about your your F1s.
I don't
Kurosh,
get
thank
the
you so much
reference,
for
sorry.
joining us.
Thank you for having me again. I appreciate you guys. For
Give
for
one
letting
last
me
plug.
jump- Yeah, you can find me on all my social platforms at Cujo Prime. I'm on YouTube mostly with my videos. So please stop by, give it a listen, give it a watch. It's youtube.com/@CujoPrime. And soon, sometime around the time of this release, maybe a little bit after, Save Point Stories is a podcast I'll be starting, a seasonal show where I'll be bringing on guests and talking about the games that mean a lot to them and why.
Sounds awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, hoping some of us appear on that one at some point. I'm just saying.
We got to talk after the show closes.
But thanks again. And Ken's already
Ken's-
leaving. Jesus Christ, so impatient. All right, well, bye everybody.
Good night,
You know what?
everybody.
Have a good one,
Luigi, number 1.